What is up, everyone, and welcome back to some more Higurashi. In the previous recording session, we wrapped up Chapter 5. It was a very interesting chapter. I very much enjoyed it. Made me very excited for what's to come next, but also left me realizing I have no idea what to expect for what's to come next. I don't know how they're going to continue to give us more answers, because the last chapter was very interesting in how it told like the opposite side of a different chapter, gave us like the truth behind it. Very curious to see if that's kind of how the rest of the answer arcs will go. But also very curious because there was no all cast review session at the end, which usually tries to give you like some more things to think about as you go forward, right? Or at the very least gives you a little hint, a little taste of what might be to come in the next episode. Like, chapter, I think both chapters 3 and 4 kind of hit. Were telling us that Shion was going to be leading chapter 5 and whatnot. That would be very centric around the twins and whatnot. With this one, there's really no expectations of what's to come. Sometimes I get a little hint of what's to come just like on the desktop icons, right? Like, with chapter 3, Satoko was the icon for the game. With chapter 5, it was Shion. For chapter 4, it was Rika, and they all played like central roles in those chapters. But with this one, the desktop icon for chapter 6 is Keiichi, which really doesn't tell me much. Like, just saying it's Keiichi centric, it's like, yeah, well, no, not 4 out of 5. 3 of the last 5 have been, so like that doesn't really tell me much, but who knows, maybe Keiichi will actually start to use his brain this chapter, huh? Let's find out. Tsumihoroboshi, the first fall. The Atonement chapter. How's your reasoning towards the truth coming along? The next tragedy is ready for you. Enjoy. This is a humorous story with a tragic struggle at the end. The difficulty is 0. You can just enjoy the clowns milling about. Interesting. So it's just going to be a lighthearted story until the very end where some shit's going to go down? This arc includes choices that were added in the console version choices. Do you want to see these choices? No, we go PC. I want to play the game as it was intended. The first time I would try harder to avoid the inevitable tragedy. The second time I would be disgusted with the inevitable tragedy. Third time my disgust would turn to anguish. The seventh time I'd be laughing by then. Work of fiction, all resemblances, blah 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 blah. The chorus of the Higurashi had replaced that of the cicadas. Their cries came from a distance, echoed loudly, and then faded away. They sounded so weak and fragile. Rena's voice was just like the cries of the Higurashi. She'd say something, but the words would quickly fade away. She sounded so fragile that it made me worry she might vanish into thin air along with her words. But nobody's pressuring her to continue. Mion dusted off the hood of an abandoned car, sat down on it as if to show how relaxed she was. She actually did look very relaxed, as if she came here to enjoy the cool breeze of the evening or something. Satoko followed Mion's example and sat down as well. She didn't look nearly as relaxed, however. I thought about following suit, but it felt rude to look away from Rena even for the short time it would take to look for a place to sit down, so I decided to remain standing. Rika-chan didn't sit down either, but she wasn't looking at Rena. Everybody else was looking at Rena, but Rika-chan was looking at the red sky. Rika-chan's expression was hard to describe. She looked pale and blank at the same time, as if all of her emotions were gone. Rena wore the same kind of expression. She kept trying to say something, but it seemed like the words were stuck in her throat. She noticed that Rika-chan was looking at the sky, so she decided to look that way as well. Mion did the same. So did I. Satoko looked that way too. And with that, there was silence. It was like we were in a concert hall, filled with the chorus of the Higurashi, a concert hall with the highest roof in the world. A refreshingly cool breeze tickled our sweaty bodies. I could almost make myself believe we came here to enjoy the breeze and the sunset. I could only wish that was what we came here for. The shadows of the birds flying across the sky soured the feeling of our quiet concert. They reminded us that time hadn't stopped. Nobody wanted to pressure Rena. We didn't want time to pressure her either. We wanted to keep the cool red sky as long as we could, so Rena could calm down and talk. Right then, I heard a sound, and it brought us all back to reality. The hood Mion was sitting on had made a noise when she moved across her legs. I don't know whether Mion made the noise on purpose or not, but it reminded us that time had been passing by. The noise took our attention away from the sky and back to the ground. Such a tasteless noise seemed to have urged Rena to speak. Rena heaved a small sigh, nodded as if she understood something, and looked at us like she always did.
話す前に一個だけ言いたいことがあるの。
She was probably saying it to everybody, but since I'm standing in the middle with her looking at me, I nodded to her to represent our agreement.
レナは正しい努力をしたと思ってる。
Her voice wasn't hoarse anymore. She sounded just like she always did.
人って幸せになるためにどれだけの努力が許されるのかな。
It sounded like a question, but nobody answered.
だからね、私みーちゃんの部活って好きなの。ほら、優勝のためには何でもしようって考え方、そういうのって素敵だと思う。だって世の中が綺麗事で縛られてて、やっていい努力がわずかだけに決められていたら、幸せじゃない人たちはますます幸せを勝ち取れなくなっちゃうじゃない。不幸ってね、連鎖するものだと思うの。一度続き始めると、そこから抜け出すには運とか人の助けとか、そういう自分でももっともっと努力しないといけないと思うの。それも本当の本当に精一杯、そこまでしてやっとつかめるのが幸せってものじゃないかなって。
Rena stopped talking, looked up, heaved a sigh, and opened her mouth again.
でもだからってみんなにもそれを受け入れてもらおうなんて甘えるだって本当に汚らしいもの。みんなだってついさっき呆然としたでしょ。それはつまりそういうことだよね。
I've never seen her smile so self-derisively like this. That smile looked unbelievably painful. I could really feel how the huge distance between us was. There's nothing physically there, but it felt as if she's talking to us through iron bars or a chain link fence. That's how great the distance between us was.
でもそれでもいいよ。そういう風にできてる世の中だもん。多分私が逆の立場でいられたなら、同じように唖然として無責任で無慈悲な同情を浮かべていたに違いないもの。
She probably said that to hit back at us. We're just putting on a mask of sympathy, enjoying the spectacle of a clown on a stage. That's why she said that. She probably expected us to say something in return, but none of us knew what to say. Rena looked disappointed for a moment, then turned and clambered on top of an abandoned car. Then she spread her arms out and gave a little twirl, letting her skirt billow up before she grabbed both ends and gave us a graceful curtsy.
じゃあ始めるよ。竜宮レナの一世一代の頑張り物語を。
There was no curtain or spotlight. She was atop an abandoned car amidst the trash piles, a stage specially made for her. We tried not to miss a word of what she was about to say. We believed that was the least we could do to not hurt her feelings. Okay. You've piqued my interest. Leading with Rena is always a good start. Let's say it's a winter month like December right now. What would you do if, all of a sudden, you had a week of hot and humid days with crying cicadas? Would you still wear your coat and scarf? Absolutely not, right? Even though it's still June, it's already summer to us since we've been having hot days for so long. So it's totally okay to do this kind of club activity in June. At my school, everybody usually does what they want in PE class, but today would be an exception. All my classmates were gathered in the schoolyard. Mion looked over at everybody gathered there, then spoke up loudly.
さてみんな、今日の趣旨はよくわかってるね。
They all raised their water guns in their hands. It's okay to use water guns in June because it's been so hot and humid. All my classmates were joining in, so it's going to be a big water gun battle. I'm so excited.
さすがクラス全員で部活だとなんだか盛り上がりますわね。そう
しゃぐのってなんだか楽しそうかなみんなは楽しいですが、僕たちは例によって負けられないのです。
ま、そういうこったな。およそ勝負と名の付く以上、俺たち部活メンバーは常にリスクを背負ってるからな。
まあそういうこと。部活メンバー諸君は部活に負けたりしちゃうと大変なペナルティーが待ってるからね。せいぜいしっかり戦うこと。
よしよし、生徒諸君、武器点検は十分か、弾倉は満タンか。
任せてくださいよ、前原さん。銃撃戦は僕たちの最も得意とするところですからね。
富田たちはよく水鉄砲で遊んでますから、かなり強敵か。
今日の僕たちは少し違います。
Tomita-kun and Nakamoto-kun smiled confidently, holding their guns in a practiced manner. Their skills must give them confidence. They even look different.
ミオンは言うに及ばず、サトコもリカちゃんもかなり強敵になりそう。レナはどうだ？ちょこまか動いていの一番にやられないように頑張れよ。そういえば最近のレナは罰ゲーム常連だな。
最近不得意なゲームが多かったから。でもケイチ君も最近私と同じで罰ゲームが多いと思うか。
罰ゲームの格好のまま帰宅して、さあ脱ごうとしたところでお袋に見つかった俺の愛し無我。
私だって先週のはひどいよ。普通の女の子ならお嫁に行けなくなっちゃうよ。
Satoko laughed at us loudly while we were shuddering at the memory of the cruel punishments we suffered in the past.
覇気や運気にも偏りというのがございましてよ。その意味から言えば、ここしばらくのレナさんやケイチさんはいわゆる負け組というやつでございますわね。
確かに負け癖ってやつはあるね。闘志ってやつは負けが続くとくじけてくる。絶対勝てるという信念が砕けると、全く同じことをやっても裏目裏目に出るもんだからね。
That's an interesting line.
てめえら、たまたま俺とレナがちょいと罰ゲームを哀れに思って引き受けてやってたの、感謝もせずにその言い草か。
あら、そうです。それは感謝の気持ちが足りず申し訳ないことでございます。
うわー、サトコってめえ、そのセリフは俺の怒りに火をつけたぜ。後悔させてやる。
その意気だよ、ケイちゃん。まあせいぜいあがいておじさんを楽しませてちょうだいよね。レンでも頑張って。あうあう言ってる間にクラスで一番最初に脱落したら、でもその可能性も高いかな。
一番最初に脱落するのがレナさんだと思いましてよ。どんな目に遭うか今からお覚悟なさいませな。ひどいよ。みーちゃんもさとこちゃんもレナもケイイチもファイトですよ。
Mion and Satoko laughed at us as loud as they could, then moved on to tease their next target. Left alone, all I could do was stomp on the floor in anger.
さあ、絶対負けねえ。あそこまで言われたら負けられねえぜ。
そうだね。あそこまで言われると悔しいよね。
っていうか、悔しいどころじゃねえぞ。くさ。
みーちゃんの言うように負け癖ってやっぱりあるかもしれないよね。だから今日は絶対に勝ってみんなを見返してやろう。
Rena's eyes look different. She's usually a funny and weird person, but I know she has the determination to do what she needs to. When Rena looks like this, she can be a tough opponent.
今日は私も部活の規則にのっとり手加減なしでいく。
おお、なんだかかっこいいこと言うじゃねえの。まるで普段の自分はわざと手を抜いているって言わんばかりだぜ。
Rena smiled. Or maybe you could have called it a wicked grin. She was serious. She was serious about what she said. I could tell that from her expression alone. Among all the club members, Rena is easily the most sensible one. The rule of our club is that we can do anything in order to win, but she's the only one who has moral qualms in doing it. That's why we rarely have a hard time against her, except for when she snaps. It's rare to hear her say that she won't go easy.
ちくしょう、そんな笑い方されたら俺も超本気で行くしかねえじゃねえかよ。
いつも本気で戦うのが部活だけど、それでもやっぱりそれ以上に本気じゃないといけない時ってあるよね。今日は多分それだね。
だな。
We pounded our fists together. Usually when we really don't want to lose the game, one asks the other to work together, but Rena didn't ask this time, which meant that she was going to try to defeat everybody by herself. No, not try. She was going to do it by herself. Rena looked really cool at that moment, but I wasn't scared. If she was seriously going to do it, I'd have to be serious and do it too. My fighting spirit had been dented after many losses, but it had begun to burn hot once more.
圭一くんもなかなかいい顔してるね。怖いな。全員と一人で戦っても勝てるつもりでいる顔だね。
レナだってそのつもりだろ。
じゃあぶつかるのは最後だね。
互いにクラス全員を全滅させたら最後にはそう。
最後の戦いの時、そこにいるのが圭一くんなのを期待してるね。
Foreshadowing?
おう。
We pounded our fists together again.
光線規定はちゃんと覚えてるね。被弾時の申請だけは正直にね。被弾した人は撃っちゃダメだよ。仮に当てても無効ね。
ミオン、被弾の定義を再確認したいぜ。
水鉄砲で撃たれたら被弾。ひねくれたケイちゃんのためにさらに補足するなら、水鉄砲というこの容器から出た水が、つまり水鉄砲を経由した水をバケツに溜めてぶっかけても無効ってわけ。
直接攻撃以外はさとこちゃんの脅威が少し薄らいだかな。トラップにもいろいろございまして、レナさんなんか一番最初に餌食にして差しそれは無理。私を仕留めようとしたらさとこちゃんじゃまだなんですって
ほほほ、レナが売り言葉とはね。こりゃ面白くなりそうだよ。ね、ケイちゃん。
大して面白くね。俺かレナかどっちにやられたいかを選ばされるだけなんだからな。
圭一もやる気満々なのです。
Mion seemed to sense the fighting spirit in me and Rena. I could tell that she's as serious as we are, just from the way she looks.
よっしゃ、いい面構えだよ。気に入った。じゃあ始めるよ。全員3回。くじで決められた場所に移動してね。
Everybody had to draw lots to pick a place to start the game from. It wouldn't be fun if everybody was close together at the beginning of the game. By the way, my starting position was behind the school building. When I drew the starting position, I thought about hiding until there were only a few people left, like I did in our last game of tag. But a defensive tactic like that wasn't interesting to me anymore. I hadn't been this excited in a long time. My legs were shaking with the excitement. It was my first time experiencing that kind of feeling. I could hear Mion's countdown from some distance away.
3、2、1。
A single shot of a toy pistol echoed. With that sound, I was already running around the building. There had to be some underclassmen nearby. I'd usually assume that somebody else would take care of them, but this time was different. They stood frozen in fear as I ran towards them, screaming at the top of my voice. They took a moment to quickly decide whether to fight or to run away, and in that moment I shot one after another.
悪いな。俺の隣が当たった時点で運がなかったと思ってくれ。
I felt bad for them because they lost the game so quickly, so I rubbed their heads to cheer them up and took their water guns. Yes, that was the key factor in this game. You can't put very much water in a water gun. With 10 people around you in a gun battle, the water would be gone in a minute. I abandoned the gun I used to shoot them and held one of their guns in each hand and scoped out the schoolyard. Just like I expected, there was an intense battle happening there. In the short time it took me to take care of the area behind the school building, it seems like most of my classmates were already shot. I wasn't surprised though. I kind of knew it would happen. You'd need to have a high skill to fight in the open schoolyard, especially when most of the club members were there. Must have been like a battle of elephants and ants.
なんだミオンのあれは。
Mion was holding a different water gun from the one she had when the game started. She was now holding one that looked like a huge machine gun. Its range capability, its pump action shooting, and the amount of water it can hold were way beyond comparison. There were no restrictions on what kind of water guns we could use today. As long as it's a water gun, we were allowed to use any kind. Most of us have normal pistol-style water guns from a local toy store or something similar. I would have brought a bigger one like Mion's if they had one, but they weren't in stock and I'd have to order it in. In other words, Mion ordered hers a long time ago just for today. She's always well prepared when it comes to winning. She must have thought we wouldn't allow her to use the big water gun if she showed it off before the game started, so she must have hidden it somewhere. Looks like most of our classmates were shot right after the game started. Only a few were still alive, trying to survive as long as they could by using the heavy construction equipment as a shield. Mion mercilessly shot at them from various angles to make them come out from behind the shield.
そらそんなとこに隠れてないで出てきな。
Tomita-kun and Okamoto-kun were trying their best to resist her attack from behind their shield. Looked like they had no chance against her, but that actually wasn't true. After all, the two of them were only still alive because of all their experience in water gun battles. They survived the first few minutes of her assault even though 99% of their classmates didn't. They were still surviving at that very moment. Mion, however, is also a battle-hardened soldier. She used the advantage of her big water tank and gradually but certainly drove them into a corner. It was only a matter of time until she broke them down.
ダメだ。あのマシンガンはつる。委員長の水が少なくなる。今は手も足も出ないよ。
They tried to hold out against her, but all they could do for now was to keep running behind cover as Mion strafed closer and closer to them. They wanted to use their 2 against 1 advantage, but it seemed like they wouldn't even get that chance. If they tried attacking recklessly, one of them might get shot, and then the other would have no chance of winning. So they grew more cautious, placing their bets on their final chance, but that caused their offense to wane. Of course, Mion saw through their plan. She was purposely provoking them so that they'd lose their patience and start attacking her recklessly. Mion circled around the construction equipment. Now she was standing with her back towards me. If I went up against her machine gun fair and square, I wouldn't stand a chance. So attacking from behind would be the only way for me to defeat her. Even though she was in a defenseless position, there was some distance between us. I was still too far away. But it would still be better to attack her now than to take her head on. Don't hesitate, Keiichi. You won't have this chance again. I stepped out from behind my hiding place and ran as fast as I could towards her with 2 water guns in my hands. Instead of approaching slowly and silently, I screamed at the top of my lungs. Mion seemed a little shocked by my surprise attack, but she immediately pulled herself together. She knew the advantages of her weapon. But she didn't shoot me just yet. She held back, luring me closer. Mion was well aware of how much water she had left. If she had the same kind of water gun as me, we would have had the same range capability. So it would have been down to our technique to decide the winner. If she was fighting against one of her underclassmen, she could have defeated them easily. Mion immediately calculated her chance of winning against me and figured out that her only chance was to use the advantage of her water gun. She saw the eye of the tiger in me and recalculated her chances of winning in a split second. Really, I can admire how fast she does those things. I ran at top speed to shorten the distance between us. Our strength should have been equal. I had 2 water guns with full tanks, she had a machine gun with a half-empty tank. We both waited for the perfect moment.
今日のケイちゃんの気迫には今日のあんたには正面からぶつかり合って互角以上の勝率を弾き出す。
残念だぜミオン。勝率の弾き方も今日の俺に正面からぶつかりてめえの負けだ。
The moment we stepped within range, Mion and I pulled our triggers at the same time. Mion set her sight squarely on me while I was trying to shoot and run at the same time. Her shot would obviously be more accurate than mine. My shot of water flew towards nowhere. Mion didn't even need to duck. Mion's shot made a beautiful arc straight towards my chest. I could see the line of water coming straight at me. I was too unstable to dodge. Mion had no doubt that she got me.
試合だけではどうにもならない現実がやっぱりケイちゃんは最初に脱落。
やっぱり残念だぜミオン。今日のミオンのコンピュータは一手読み。
ほざくな。その体勢からかわ水の弾丸で撃ち抜かれろ。そしてどうして私の背後を沈黙して奪わず叫びながら襲う具を犯したかを呪うがいいよ。
You're really disappointing me today, Mion. You could have figured it out if you just spent one more second to think. You could have figured out the reason why I didn't creep up on you, but screamed as loud as I could instead, It was to alert the 2 boys, let them know that they had an opening. Mion noticed my surprise attack and turned around to face me. In other words, she turned her back on the opponents she was fighting earlier. Those opponents heard my scream and saw that she had turned her back on them.
なんだって
Mion noticed her back was wet and cold. She finally understood the underclassmen she was attacking just earlier had shown their fangs and attacked her from behind. I blocked her water shot with my arm. right before it hit my chest. The line of water was broken into droplets and splattered away.
被弾者の攻撃は被弾しても
そいつに気づくのだいぶ伏せろミオン
Mio squatted down and covered her head. Now it was me versus Tomita-kun Nakamura-kun. The reflexes weren't so bad. They knew well that I'd be their next target after Mion was gone. They didn't feel sorry at all for attacking me right after I just saved them from their predicament. I can respect the cruelty and how quickly they shifted gears. They may one day be able to join our club if they keep refining their sense and skill.
次は前原さんだ。こっちは負けるわけがない。
They were, however, one step behind me. It was already too late. For them, Mion was their first target, and I was next. But I was different. My first target was them from the start. I didn't even see Mion as my target to begin with, because I knew they'd take care of her. I was pointing my guns at them long before they moved their sights from Mion to me. It seemed like they noticed at the last moment that both my guns had been pointing at them from the beginning, which meant it was already too late for them. I jumped over Mion, rolled on the ground, and landed on my feet. I looked as elegant as an athlete who had just finished a perfect performance. I had a gun in each one of my hands. And with those guns, I shot them each in the middle of their chests.
早すぎ。僕たちが二人がかりで負けるなんて。
Tomita-kun and Nakamura-kun fell to their knees in disappointment.
ケイちゃんがこれだけのことをやってのけるなんて私も鈍ったってことかな。
Mion wiped the dirt off her knees, looking frustrated.
別にミオンは鈍っちゃいなかった。
じゃあな。
そんなの決まってるじゃないか。
I twirled my guns on the tips of my fingers.
たまには勝たねえと格好がつかねえからだよ。
There were only a few people left alive. Rena, Satoko, and myself. Rena and Satoko were fighting fiercely. Were they evenly matched? No, Satoko was pushing her hard. Moving fast, she was driving Rena into a corner. Rena was usually gentle and slow, but today she was different. She was very serious today, and yet, Satoko was still overwhelming her. She's a tough customer even without her tricky traps.
最初の威勢はどこへ行ってしまいましたのかしら。いい動きを私も負けられないよ。
Satoko kept moving around, piling on pressure in order to pin Rena down. She kept shooting, so her tank must have almost been empty, but her shots were still sharp and fast. I noticed a bucket near her feet, which was full of many water guns. I understood, seeing that, she'd been taking guns from others who were already out of the game. In this battle, reloading bullets, water, was more crucial than the actual shooting. The hole that you put water into on these guns is rather small. To put water through it from a faucet takes time and requires a certain amount of skill. In a battle like this, it would almost be suicidal. I understand that well, so I've been taking guns from the people I defeated, but I could only hold one in each hand. Satoko used a bucket to overcome the limit. Rena looked like she had only one water gun. I'd assumed she had two earlier, but she must have used a lot of water during her long battle with Satoko. Looked like she was trying to save her water for the right moment, but with Satoko's fierce attacks, it was obvious that it was only a matter of time before Rena was driven into a corner. However, Rena is also quite skilled. She only pretended to be driven into a corner, but she was actually luring Satoko to a place where she'd have the advantage. There was a narrow, twisting path near the gymnasium warehouse, behind the school building. With Rena's water levels running low, she'd want to turn things around with a single close-range shot. That narrow path was the perfect place for her to do that.
あれあれ、攻撃の手が鈍っ疲れてきた。お気遣いは嬉しいですけど、それよりそちらのお水は大丈夫ですの？さっきから全然打ち返してき、ひょっとしてもう玉切れ。そうだと思うならお顔を出してみたらどう？遠慮いたします。最後の一発を温存しているの。一発あれば十分。体操服を濡らした気の毒だからね。まさかレナさんとこんなにもスリリングなやりとりができるなんて思いませんでしたわ。でも最後の一発分の水量では大して勢いもないでしょうから、射程もほとんどないんじゃありません？
Satoko was right about that. Rena had just enough water to make one last shot. As the amount of water left in the tank dwindles, the range of shots you can make shortens. That makes the last shot the shortest and weakest of them all. Regardless of her absolutely disadvantageous situation, Rena didn't look frustrated. I could tell she had no intention to lose. It was almost like she didn't even see Satoko as a threat.
うまい位置に逃げ込みましたわね。私もさすがに慎重にならざるを得ませんわ。
Satoko seemed to understand how dangerous Rena's last shot was going to be better than I did, since she was the one actually fighting against her.
私、将棋はあまりやらないんですけれど、
こういうのを詰将棋って言うんでございましょうね。
Satoko took out another gun with a full tank and shortened down the distance between them slowly and carefully. A gun with a full tank doesn't only have a long range, it also has enough power to make shots more accurate. If they shot at each other in a frontal attack, Satoko would have a 99% chance to win. Even so, Satoko is still afraid of Reina's last shot. Satoko shortened the distance even further, smiling as if unafraid. I could tell she was actually full of fear. Satoko compared the situation to chess earlier, but it wasn't exactly the same. In chess, you can use some pieces to drive the opponent's king into a corner, but in this case, there were only Reina and Satoko. You can lose some of your pieces in order to achieve a win, but Satoko doesn't have any pieces other than herself. A king can't drive the other king into a corner alone. That's called a stalemate. That's why, while at first glance, it looks like Satoko has the absolute advantage, they're actually on equal footing.
さあ参りますわよ。このままチャイムを待つなんて私たちらしくありませんわ。そうだね。勝負しよう。
That's strange, I thought. Reina wouldn't have to move just on a dare from Satoko. What kind of plan did she have? Reina had been hiding behind cover for a while, but she came out without hesitation. I noticed something right away. Reina had a different gun. Satoko seemed to notice it as well.
ここには弾切れになったら逃げ込もうとかあらかじめ一丁拾って隠してあったの。
Damn, she's good. In using a trap at the last moment for a come from behind victory, it was as though she was taking Satoko's best skill from her and firing it right back. Satoko no longer had any advantages now that both of them were pointing their guns at each other with full tanks. But she still looked confident. What was going on? Did she have some kind of plan too?
その一丁は私にとっても大切な一丁です。どうしてかな。だってその一丁がなかったらレナさんはさっきの銃のまま一撃逆転を狙い続けてこうして私の前に姿を現したりしませんもの。
At that moment, lightning ran through my brain and I instantly understood the situation. Of course. Reina was in a disadvantageous situation earlier, but it was actually the same for Satoko, since she didn't have a chance to make her shot while Reina was in hiding. Reina had remained cautious in order to hit her with her last shot. That made it difficult for Satoko to attack her. However, what if Reina didn't need to take the last shot for a come from behind victory? No, I said it wrong. What if Reina got a new gun with a full tank? She'd stop hiding and come out to fight against Satoko.
つまりレナさんがここを目指しながら逃げてその銃を拾うことは最初から読んでいましたってことですのよ。
Let Satoko talk crap, Reina. You don't have to listen to her. Just shoot her right now. Reina thought the same thing. She shot at Satoko without any hesitation. But she frowned in confusion a moment after. What was going on? She couldn't shoot? Was her water gun broken? Or did somebody break it?
水鉄砲なんてちょっと砂粒を入れて空打ちすればすぐに詰まっちゃうんですのよ。私が切り札をここに一丁持ってることを私いつもトラップは最後の最後これが究極の美徳でございましてよ。
When it comes to traps, Satoko remained a notch above Reina after all. I couldn't believe Satoko figured out Reina's plan in advance and set a trap to counter it. Reina, you made a big mistake. You should have kept the old gun with you. You could have at least made that last shot. But it's too late now for you to pick it up again. Reina was in a worse situation than she was before. She couldn't even take another shot.
さっきレナさんは私が逆に額を打って差し上げましてよ。
Satoko slowly narrowed her distance again, pointed the muzzle at Reina's forehead. Reina still didn't look like she'd given up. She still thought the game was undecided.
さとこちゃんもまだまだ甘いね。なんですって？トラップで相手を仕留めたならね。さとこちゃんが余裕を見せるのは勝者の権利だと思う。だけどね、今のさとこちゃんは私を絡め取っただけで余裕を見せるのはまだまだ早い段階だとは思わない？何を言い出すかと思えば今から仕留めるから同じことですわ。私が逆の立場ならじゃないと負けるから。負ける？誰が？あら、その壊れた水鉄砲でどうやって戦おう？被弾の定義、水鉄砲というこの容器から出た水が、は？それが一体何だって言うんですの？
When I heard her saying that, I started running. My target was Reina. Satoko was already dead to me. Why? She was going to be shot by Reina within the second.
レナさんが何を言ってるのか。その壊れた水鉄砲で何ができるおつもりだ？水鉄砲の中に水があれば戦えるんだよ。
Yeah, they didn't say it had to be shot from the water gun. It just had to be water from the water gun.
わかんないかな。
Rena raised her broken water gun up high and smashed its handle on the wall of the school building as hard as she could. Plastic broke easily and water flowed out of
水
it.
鉄砲から出た水が水鉄砲のどこから出たかは問題にしてない。
Rena was right. She just saved herself by thinking it through. If she was using a real gun, bullets would only come out of one end of the gun. But this was a water gun. She could make her bullets, water in this case, come out from any place, not just the barrel of the gun. Satoko finally realized that she was standing defenselessly in front of Rena. Satoko's trap was successful, but she overestimated its effect. She should have just shot Rena without hesitation before Rena noticed her new water gun was jammed. She was going to fail because she had grown overconfident of her victory. A second before Satoko pulled the trigger, Rena swung her water gun as if slashing Satoko with a sword. Satoko fired her bullets, but it was too late. A second before Rena would be shot down, a blade of water hit Satoko in the face. No, not hit. It cut her face open.
まだまだ爪が甘かったね。この私が。
Rena ran towards Satoko, standing still in shock, and took her water gun. Rena knew I was her last target and that I was running towards her. Rena, using her superior mobility, began to duck and weave. We were evenly matched. Neither of us neglected to make any effort possible to take advantage of the situation.
最後には一騎打ちになると思ってたよ。やっぱりこうでなくっちゃね。
見直したぜ。とんでもない根性を見せてくれるじゃないか。
見直したより惚れ直したの方が嬉しいかな。
負けてくれたらそれでもいいぜ。
ごめんだね。
We circled around the construction equipment, trying to take shots at each other. We were both sweating like crazy, but I didn't feel tired. Big drops of sweat tickled as they ran down my body. Rapid bursts of water flew across both of our paths. Neither of us had the advantage or disadvantage. I didn't feel elated that I might win or frustrated that I might lose. I was just enjoying this battle with Rena. It was like a dance that I couldn't dance alone. A dance that I could only dance with an opponent.
本気のレナはやっぱり冴えるね。見てるだけで震えがくるよ。
そのレナさんと互角に渡り合うなんてケイチさんもやりますわね。どちらが勝つか全然予想がつきませんです。
In fact, none of the observers could tell who was going to win. Neither could we. We had no idea who was going to win. We had no idea when this battle would end. I didn't know why, but it was great fun just to fight against Rena, and I didn't even care whether I won or lost. In fact, never even wanted it to end. As we fired at each other, both of our tanks emptied, shortening our range. Inevitably, it became more and more like a melee than a gun battle. We fired our water guns as if trying to cut each other with blades of water, swinging the gun like a sword. We both came up with the idea to swing the gun hard to generate centrifugal force in order to increase the range of our attacks. I dived to duck her shot. I rolled on the ground and landed on my feet. I ducked her shot again and swung my gun like a sword. Who could have imagined that our club's water gun battle would turn into a one-on-one close combat like this? Absolutely nobody.
ああ、やっぱりレナもそ。
じゃあケイチ君もそう思うんだ。
We were both breathing hard, calculating the timing needed to take a closer step. And then, we both grinned wickedly at each other.
やり合うのが楽しい。決着がつくことすら。
負けても恨まないでね。
ああ、恨まない。この勝負を終わらせた自分の不甲斐なさを恨んでやるぜ。だがそいつを恨むのはどうやらレナの方になりそうだな。
どうかな。ケイチ君、足が藁だよ。
くそったれー。おりゃー。
すごい。なんだかものすごく前原さん頑張れー。龍河さんしっかりー。
I became relaxed enough to enjoy the battle and finally realized that many of our classmates were watching our one-on-one fight. I barely had any water left. I would have to make the next shot count or I was done for. It seemed like Rena was in the same situation too.
泣いても笑っても水が有限なのが惜しいぜ。
限りがあるから美しい。花も一緒だよ。
なるほどな。
本当に楽しかった。でも
だな、無粋かもしれんが
上等だよケイ。
負けて泣くなよ。
勝負。
乗ったー。うわー。
ちが勝ったんですの？
The cries of the cicadas echoed in the quiet schoolyard. They sounded like the hand of a watch ticking away the seconds. Neither one of us moved. We took our final shots and now stood motionless. Looked like one of those duels in Western movies.
どっちが先に？わかんない。全然見えなかった。
Our classmates broke the silence first. They finally realized that our intensely beautiful one-on-one battle was over.
委員長、判定は？
Mion, in turn, realized that she had to deliver a verdict to end the game. But she was just as stunned as the others, and it took her a moment to recover. Mion was taking time to render her verdict. In fact, Rena and I didn't know who won either. My last shot flew fast and splashed sideways as if a blade had cut her chest. I knew that for sure. At the same moment, Rena's shot hit me in the shoulder. Whoever shot the other first wins. But we didn't know if it was me or her. That's why we stood motionless, waiting for the verdict to be delivered.
僕にだってわかるわけな。
委員長、どっちの勝ちなの？
Everybody held their breath, waiting for Mion to call it. Rena and I kept staring at each other. The spectators were the only ones who were interested in who the winner was. To us, it wasn't that important. We had a great battle. We had both really wanted to do better than the other. We both wanted to call it a tie. For this great battle, settling for a tie would... Goddammit, press button. Settling for a tie would be the best and most proper option. In other words, this one-on-one fight wasn't a battle to decide the winner. It seems like everybody's thinking the same way.
ミー、判定が出ないと二人とも動けませんです。
あ、うん。
Mion hates to settle for a tie because she loves to draw a line between superiors and inferiors. She tends to settle for a tie when deciding who is the loser because it's more fun to have as many people as possible suffer the punishment, but she's never settled for a tie between winners before. Mion holds a special feeling towards the meaning of being number one. Everybody continued holding their breath, awaiting her verdict. Please make it a tie. Everybody wished for that in their hearts. Mion was hesitating to make the decision. She could have chosen a winner more easily if one of us did even a little better than the other. But even if one of us did a little better than the other, I feel like nothing fits better than settling for a tie.
今日の二人は
Mion
見
finally
事だったよ。
started speaking.
ケイちゃんもレナもここしばらくの連敗に発奮し、その瞬発力は評価の肯定の段階を超えて、もはや美しいと呼べるまで、私は二人の最高の戦いぶりに評価を惜しめない。
じゃあ決着はどうなる？
快速の精神から1位を二人に認定するのは好ましくない。でも二人にはわずかの優劣もなく、どちらよって本日の戦いを預かり勝負とし、後日改めて決着をつけることといたしたい。
I expected she might settle for a tie. I never thought she'd make us have another battle. Oh, come on, I expected that from the jump. This is Mion we're talking
灰
about.
原さん、すごかったですよ。かっこよすぎます。竜宮さんにもしびれました。なんかこう、まあ
It was like, you know.
見てるこっちまで熱くなるというか。
The classmates rushed towards us and praised us for showing them something that cool. Rena and I were finally released from the tension of battle and dropped to our knees.
残念。決着をつけ損。
まあな、次の機会を楽しみにしようぜ。
肩を貸してほしいな。
先に俺が借りようと思ったのに。
We both smiled at each other. It was the first time we ever hit it off like this.
それはそう。
うまいことやったよな。
うまいことって何？みーちゃん、うまいこと言って今日の罰ゲームうやむやにする気だ。
ギク。
かっこつけときながら保身第一ってあたりが身を、逃げたぞ。図星かよ。わかりやすいやつだな。
The bell rang, a sign that class was over, while we all laughed at Mion. After that,
二人ともお疲れ様なのタオルをどうぞなのです。
Rika-chan held out a towel with a big smile on her face. However, Rena and I stepped back and pointed our water guns at her.
もうみんなにもう撃たれてると言っても誰も信じてくれないのですよ。
Nobody believed me. Rika-chan was soaking wet. Well, Nobody believed her because she really could be that sneaky, pretending that she was hit in order to stay in the game.
普段が普段でございますもの。信じろというのが難しい相談でございましたよ。みんながいじめるのです。僕はもう段ボール箱の中でミーミー泣いて、誰も拾ってくれないかわいそうな猫さんなのです。
The sound came from Rena's head. I saw a circle of smoke coming out of it. Rena must have pictured Rika-chan mewing like a cat in a cardboard box.
リカちゃん捨ててあるよ、捨ててある。レナが拾うよ。お持ち帰り。
Rena, you're ruining how cool we looked earlier. Rena was back to her normal self and jumped on Rika-chan like a chameleon capturing its prey. Rika-chan struggles to get away.
はい、皆さん早く教室に戻りなさい。
Chie-sensei clapped her hands and yelled at us from the window of the teacher's office.
行こうぜみんな。
Everyone exchanged smiles and ran back to the classroom. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Pleasant weather. Ooh. The Great Water Gun Disaster. What a name for an achievement. I don't know. See, every time there's just like some kind of club activity, right? In these early moments of the chapters, whenever there's a club activity, I'm always like reading more into it. Cause like, I feel like there's always something to learn from these moments outside of just like, oh, they're all just having a fun time. But it teaches that like, okay, Rena can definitely when Rena's determined to do something, she definitely follows through. And then the entire scenario itself is like this big all-out battle that ends with a confrontation between Keiichi and Rena, which is something to think about. Keiichi and Rena seem to be pretty evenly matched. Something to consider. One reason I like my house is because it has good ventilation. As long as there's a nice breeze, I don't have to rely on a fan to keep me cool. I can take down my futon from the windowsill, place my cushion near the open window, and enjoy the cool breeze of the evening. According to my page-day calendar, it's June 1983 today. While it was still June, it seemed like summer skipped the rainy season and was already coming around the corner. This was very abnormal, apparently. Even if it was abnormal weather that only comes around once in 100 years, if it was supposed to come in June of 1983, then it wasn't so much of a big deal. It was inevitable. On the other hand, the sudden evening shower on the way home from school was more unpredictable than anything else. Every day had been in perfect harmony as if it was all carefully planned. Felt like something good was going to happen this year. How should I put it? It's like the feeling I get when I roll a 6 on the first throw of a board game and start off with a huge lead. When it comes to a die, the more you roll it, the more the total averages out. We actually roll a die many times in our everyday lives. So it's not like one stroke of luck is really a big deal to be overly happy with. If I roll a 6 on my first throw and a 1 on my next throw, the total is 7. If you believe in fate, you might say there's a higher possibility of a 1 to come up on the die. But you can never actually tell what number you'll roll. That's what fate is all about. You might roll a 6 again. The chance of rolling a 6 twice in a row is 1 out of 36. But if you look at each throw one by one, there's only a 1/6 chance of that miracle. The glass wind chime Satoko put up yesterday was making a refreshing sound. Okay. I awoke from my dream, still feeling excited. I must have had a very happy dream. I already forgot what it was about. Felt as though there was a switch that automatically made me forget my dreams when I opened my eyes. All I could remember is that it was a happy dream. I looked at the ceiling and enjoyed the happy feeling for a while. It was Sunday today. Outside the window I could hear morning birdsong that sounded totally different from what I heard on weekdays. The morning birdsong on weekdays sounds like they're in a rush, as if they're telling me to hurry to school, but on Sunday it's different. I can tell that the birds are singing simply because they want to tell everybody how great a morning it is. I even felt like the birds that sing on weekdays must be different birds from the ones that sing on Sunday. I wonder if there really are birds that only sing on Sunday. It sounds like a luxurious job for some reason. It's a waste to listen to such a valuable bird song when you're not quite awake. As I fully awaken, my normal, crude personality takes over, and I start feeling stupid to even think that there might be birds that sing only on Sunday. As I yawned and stretched, my blood started circulating through my entire body. It felt good. I turned over and looked at the clock, which says it's past 10 a.m. I used to go to my cram school on Sunday at 10 a.m. That was before I moved to Hinamizawa. My parents made me go to several cram schools back then. I remember that the one I had to go to on the first and third Sundays of the month was the hardest of all, because I had to change trains several times to get there. I was never allowed to sleep in so late back then. My mom always woke me up early so that I didn't miss any classes. That's probably why I've always dreamed of being able to wake up whenever I wanted on a Sunday. Needless to say, I don't feel that way anymore now that I moved to Hinamizawa. After all, I can only sleep till noon on Sunday now. My life has changed completely since I moved here. Before, I used to think living in the countryside would be really inconvenient. To be honest, I wasn't even interested in living here. But it was only the first few days that I felt that way. Now I don't feel attached to the life in the city or its conveniences. When I think about what part of my life in Hinamizawa I'm most attached to, I'd have to say, it's probably my friends. I guess the reason why I'm being so sentimental is probably because I had so much fun yesterday in the water gun fight with all of my classmates. Despite my age, I got so into it and had so much fun. I bet the kids in the city wouldn't be able to play like that. No, I should say they wouldn't even want to in the first place. They wouldn't even realize how exciting a simple water gun fight could be. I went downstairs and saw my parents watching a serious TV program, arguing about the topic together.
だいたい日本の電話料金は高すぎるんだ。国が電話事業を独占してるからこういうことになるんだ。
でも民間企業ってのは慈善団体なわけじゃないんだし、全国一律のサービスを本当に維持できるわけ？
The experts on TV were arguing about the same thing. Seems like there's a possibility the telephone service will get privatized. I'm too young to understand how privatization can make things better. But I can easily assume that people will start talking about privatizing the postal services in the near future too. My parents were arguing about the topic fiercely, but they got along very well. Let's put it this way, they get along well and that's why they argue. I don't remember seeing them get along this well when we were living in the city. This is probably one of the things that got better since we moved to Hinamizawa. A cold relationship between parents doesn't bring any benefits to their kids, facts.
あらケイチ、日曜にしては早いわね。朝ごはん食べる？
今日はいらない。あと今日は外で食べるから。
なんだ、友達と圭一がよく話す
いや、今日は部活、昨日の罰ゲームというか、なんというか。
Someone rang the doorbell. I looked at the clock and noticed it's time to meet Rena. Guess I spent too much time enjoying waking up late. I ran upstairs to get a change of clothes. Quickly changed and ran to the front door. Rena was chatting with my parents. I always feel uncomfortable when my parents talk to my friends. I'm afraid they'll say something embarrassing about me. They told Rena that I wet my bed till I was X years old or something. She wouldn't wait until Monday to tell everybody in my school, or maybe even everybody in Hinamizawa.
ようレナ、おはよう。待たせて悪い悪い。
ケイチくん
Rena and my parents looked at me and laughed. Said good morning and they laughed. Guess I was too late. My parents must have already told Rena some embarrassing secrets about me. I don't want my parents to tell her anything else, so I put on my shoes in a rush and pushed Rena out of the house. My parents waved at us,
いっ
smiling.
てらっしゃい。レナちゃん、ケイチをよろしくお願いね。
はいおばさまケイチくんはレナがちゃんと面倒見ま
何の面倒だか知らんが、見んでいい見んで。
I dragged Rena away from the house and we were on our way. We rode our bicycles to the town of Okonomiya. It's a long way away. It's an easy ride to the town because it's mostly downhill. But needless to say, it's a hard ride on the way back. I felt like Rena was giggling whenever she looked at me. I badly wanted to know what kind of embarrassing information my parents had fed her before I came downstairs. Tried to give her a new subject to talk about in order to get whatever she heard from my parents out of her mind.
レナって何気にうちの親と仲いいよな。
仲いいよよくお話しするもん
よくお話っていつしてるよ。俺は見かけたことないぞ。
おばさまとはよくお買い物の時に会うかな特売日とかポイントセールの日なんかはよく会うね
ああ、確かにおふくろは特売日とかまめにチェックしてるな。冷蔵庫のとこに磁石でいろいろとメモが貼ってあってさ、どこそこで 何がいつ安いなんてのが書いてあるのを見かけるよ。
それでね、今夜は何にしましょうねって話をしながら一緒に買い物するの。カレールーが特売だから今夜はカレーにしようかななんて話になると、じゃあうちもなんて感じで。
そういえば一昨日はカレーだったな。じゃあレナのとこもカレーだったわけか？
おとといはポークカレー、豚肉が安かったから一緒に買ったの。だからね私の家でもカレーを食べながら、今頃ケイチくんも同じカレーを食べてるんだろうなって思ってた。
That's kind of bordering on kind of creepy there, Rena. I love you, but So she knows what I'm eating for dinner almost every day. Didn't bother me, but I did kind of feel embarrassed.
おじさまとはお買い物の時に一緒に会う。ケイチくんのおじさまとおばさま、本当に仲良しなんだね。
そういえばよく一緒に買い物に行くな。確かにいい年して仲はいい方だと思う。
やっぱり両親の仲がいいのはお買い物にも一緒だなんて、なんだか素敵で羨ましいな。
なんだかさっきからレナのとこはどうだよ。仲いいか？
仲いい。いつもべったりしてる。だからね、レナに居場所がない。
Her parents are a lovey-dovey couple, huh? I've never met Rena's mother, but I imagine she's just like Rena. I could easily imagine her mother going crazy about the spot her husband missed when shaving, because it looks so cute to her. God damn it. Like sesame seeds on white rice. She must love to touch her husband's chubby stomach because it feels so soft. It was funny how easily I could imagine her mother doing those things.
突然笑い出すなんて。
レナの家のおばさんが、俺も今度レナのおばさんに会ってみることにするぜ。
ダメだよ。
レナだってならおあいこだろ。
だってケイチくんなんかがあってもいいことないよ。全然立派な人じゃないし。
会う前からかなりズバリレナにそっくりだろ。
そんなこと全然似てない。
その過剰な反応が雄弁に答えを物語ってるぞ。とにかくレナのおばさんに興味が出たぜ。
Phrasing?
今度ご挨拶に伺うからな。覚悟してや。
ケイチくんがレナの家に来たらレナ怒るよ。
普段お宅のお嬢さんに、いやお嬢さんとくらいの方が面白いかもしれないな。
もしうちに来たらみーちゃんたちにケイチくんのちっちゃい頃
ちっちゃい頃とは具体
4つの時の話と6つの時の滑り台の話とあと
すみませんでした。レナさんの目の黒いうちは竜宮家の半径
ありがとう。
Damn it, Mom. I'll remember this. We arrived at the station. The place we were going today is right here, near here. It's a restaurant called Angel Mort. We're meeting up with the others there. I was surprised when I saw the restaurant. It's usually a normal and quiet restaurant, but today there were so many people in front of it. They didn't look like they were waiting in line to get inside. It looked more like they were just loitering around. They should just line up and go inside like normal people.
うわー、すっげえ人だな。
今日はイベントデーだから、この日のためにすっごい遠くから来てる人たちも大勢いるんだって。
There's a flag saying Dessert Festa in front of the restaurant. I heard that Angel Mort holds events like this several times a year, and a lot of people come to attend from all over.
今日のデザートフェスタはね、でね、1枚のチケットで4人まで入場できることになっててね。
なるほどな。チケット持ってる友人が来るのをこうして店の前で、
チケットの人にはね、
つまり落選者たちがチケット当選者のおこぼれに預かろうとこうして群がってるってわけなのか。
At that time, the crowd of people roared in excitement. What was going on?
こいつチケットは4人まで入れるのに1人で入ろうなんて。残り3人の
僕を仲間に加えてくれたら、オイラならフロントフィールドの夏コメ
日暮ベータ版世界モード搭載版で譲って
G 氏の魔改造フィギュアでなんとか。
俺はこのお米券でどうだ。この愚か者。
よくわからん騒ぎになっとるぞ。
このお店のコアなファンは。
ところで俺たちの第一チケットの店員じゃ。
ほら、このお店みーちゃんの
ミオンって時々すげえよな。
Rena makes a fist and gets all fired up.
じゃあ行こう。一気に駆け抜けるからね。
それが最良の策みたいだな。よし。
We nodded at each other. Since we were a group of two at present, it looked like we had 2 more seats to share. These people might try mobbing us in order to get a share. Crouched down and getting ready to run. A crowd of people seemed to notice us.
あの二人強行突破。
しかも女子と二人きりでボックスシートを埋めようとは不届き。一緒に座ってラブラブな空気を。
最後の一発まで抵抗しろ。ゲルマンの鉄の意志を見せてやるのだ。
Damn, they're going to tackle us. They do whatever it took to stop us from getting inside the restaurant.
今日はみーちゃんたちみんなの罰ゲームの日。私たちがお店に入れなかったら昨日の勝利。
それだけは認め、俺たちがベストを尽くして得た。だからミオンたちの罰ゲームを見届けるのは権利である。
義務でもあるもんね。
とかっこよく決めたところで下心丸出しな。
さとこちゃんやりかちゃん、どんな格好かお持ち帰り。
おとなしくチケットを差し出すでござる。
ここは通さねえぜ。
エンジェルモートのイベントチケットを余った枠に我らを加えるでござるよ。
They reached their hands toward us like zombies. They gradually got closer and closer. We were actually taking it easy, though. In fact, I'd say the situation was rather enjoyable.
なんだか昨日の部活がまだ
ああ、なんだか面白くなってきたぜ。連中を蹴散らして一気に行くぜ。
了解。みーちゃんやさとこちゃんを相手に回すよりは簡単かな。
だな。他の部活メンバーを敵に回すのに比べたら悪いが、俺たちを止めるには人数がちょいとった。
よーし、じゃあ行くよ。
おう。
Our enemies number about 20 to 30. If they wanted to stop us, they should have gotten 10 times more people than that.
いらっしゃいませ。本日はイベントデーになりますが、
チケットはリュウグウレナと。
ただいま少々お待ちください。
Seems like many fans of this restaurant aren't normal people. I bet they try to get in with lies or fake tickets. The owner of this waitress makes sure to check the list.
いや、しかし恐ろしい連中だった。あんなのがひしめいていたら健全な客は店内までたどり着けないぞ。
そうかもだね。でもレナの行く手を阻むことは誰にもできないんだよ。はう。
それはそうと、あれは肘か。膝、顔面の急所を正確にぶち抜くとは恐ろしいやつ。
The way Rena swept them off their feet with super fast invisible jabs was incredible. Even gave me a chill just thinking about it.
だってレナのお持ち帰りを邪魔するんだもん。きっとみんなかいいよ。みんなお持ち帰り。
怪異モードのレナが相手じゃな。まあ連中もあれだけ派手にぶちのめされれば。はい。
ケイチくんだってすごかったよ。大勢に囲まれて飲み込まれたと思ったら急にシーンとなって、その後みんな涙を流しながら道を開けてた。なんでかな。
いや別に落選したお前たちの代わりにこの俺が入店してやだからどうしよくん。今は涙を流してもと、まあそのあたりのことを少々語ったら。
ケイチくんってアジテーション得意だよね。
You're so good at appealing to the perverts, Keiji.
聞いている人を共感させる能力というか。
Oh yeah, that too, I guess.
我が部の口先の魔術師って感じ。
その口先の魔術師って他の通り名はないのかよ。
どうだろうね。考えてみるね。
Rena laughs loudly.
大変お待たせしました。リストにお名前を書く。お席へご案内します。どうぞこちらへ。
The waitress led us to our seats. The restaurant was completely packed today, made for a cheerful but sort of crazy atmosphere. All the customers in the restaurant were very unique people, just like the ones loitering around outside. There was an aura of excitement in the store, and also smelled a bit sweaty. They were also talking excitedly, using special terms that I don't understand, again, just like the people outside.
やはりエンジェルモートは制服命だすね。
食は舌で味わうものでござるが、エンジェルモートは目で味わうので、今日は大変のウェイトレスさんはいないでござるか。
Not the big heavy pair of melons.
女の子のローテのツンデレ好きなら火木の17時以降は絶対抑えたいですね。逆属性の方は金曜17時以降が勝負。
I regret coming here today. I'm just thinking, like, they're like, you gotta check the shift roster, man. So it's like Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Those are the days listed, right? Yeah. That's the only time we're allowing girls with either large tits or small tits to work. Any other day, anytime on Mondays, Wednesdays, or Saturdays and Sundays, like, only average tits. All right, if you're flat or huge in the chest area, no, you can't be working anytime on a Monday, a Wednesday, or the weekends. Nope, not gonna happen. But also, if you do have massive tits, you can have Tuesdays and Thursdays, but only after 5. No big titties in the morning, all right? And no tiny titties in the mornings either. The fuck kind of place you run in here, goddamn. And at the same time, I was really glad that I didn't lose the game yesterday. This punishment might be a bit easier for the girls. As a guy, if I had to undergo this punishment today, I would have been kicked and punched by these crazy customers because they would have been burning with anger. Yeah. Let me explain. I didn't come here just to eat lunch with Rena today. The punishment is as follows. The losers have to wear a costume that was randomly chosen and help with the event at Angel Mort as a waitress. Winners can enjoy eating desserts, receiving service from the losers. When this punishment was announced, I'd actually prepared myself for the punishment because I thought I'd lose the game like always. I was losing a lot recently, so I didn't think I could win. I assume Rena felt the same way. Who can imagine Rena and I would do so well as to win? You're great, Keiichi Maebara. You made me proud. Everybody started shouting, clapping their hands, and whistling for joy. I don't blame them. They came here just for the event at Angel Mort. None of them expected to see the waitresses wearing different costumes like this.
みーはうわリカちゃんお持ち帰り
待て、ここでお持ち帰ったら罰ゲームにならん。
Rika-chan appears with glasses of water and wet napkins on a tray. They drew lots to decide on the costumes. Rika-chan's costume is the uniform of Angel Mort, which we use regularly for punishments.
いらっしゃいませ。エンジェルモートへようこそなのですよ。
Rika-chan put the glasses of water and the wet napkins in front of Rena and me.
かいよお持ち帰り
Rena raised her weird voice and everybody in the store followed suit.
お持ち帰り
Everybody started shouting the phrase. Before I knew it, they were surrounding our table trying to burn the scene of Rika-chan serving customers into their minds.
はうリカちゃん似合うよ似合ってるよはうみージロジロ見られると恥ずかしいのです。
そういえばおなじみのエンジェルモート制服。
それはですね、僕が説明いたします。
Tomita-kun, our underclassman, pushed his way through the crowd.
なんだ、岡本二人とも当選してたのか。
そんなことはどうでもいい。それよりもここでフルデさんの衣装について説明しましょう。
It's not important.
ご存知の通り、エンジェルモートの制服はよって着衣には多少の成熟した年齢相応のプロポーションが、その意味においては未発達な体型であるフルデさんとは最も相性。
それだけでなく問題となったのはフルデさんのそのためフルデさんはエンジェルモートの制服を着るという罰ゲーム。そこでフルデさんはプール用の水着で衣装を代用したのですが、それにより神をも予見できなかったであろう水着とエンジェルモート衣装というありえない組み合わせが生まれたのです。この武装により現在のフルデさんの攻撃力は属性付与、状態異常の追加、クリティカル発生率の大幅アップ。この素晴らしさわかりますよね。つまりこれを竜宮さん風に言うとこうです。 持ち帰り
No, I gotta hear that one again.
つまりこれを竜宮さん風に言うとこうです。お持ち帰り
That dude absolutely needs new pants. Holy shit.
ダメだよ、ダメダメ。お持ち帰るのはレナなんだよ。でも気持ちはわかるよ。お持ち帰り。
God damn, how many times am I gonna have to hear that? Tsumihoroboshi and Okamoto-kun held Rena's shoulders, and they shouted the phrase in their excitement. The phrase had spread throughout the entire store and was now out of control. Anyway, Tsumihoroboshi and Okamoto-kun surprise me sometimes. For their age, they're so good at giving passionate speeches. They'll probably make it big in the future.
みーちゃんとさとこちゃんは二人も楽しみ。
At that time, the crowd sent up another roar. I hear Mion telling them to let her through. I remember what kind of costume she picked.
あれはどういうこと？
亀田くんかよ。
Oh, that's the fucking, yeah, it's the pitcher guy, isn't it? From the fucking Okonomiya Titans.
そっか。デザートマジンの君がデザートフェスタにいないわけないよな。いや、元気？
元気かどうかな。それよりあれはどうなってるんすか。
Kameda-kun was in a state of great excitement. Thick veins were displaying on his forehead. The source of that excitement appears through the crowd.
こうなりゃやけだね。毎度どうも。ウルトラレアチーズケーキお待たせしました。
Cheesecake? I'm sold. Mion appeared with a cake on a tray. Oh, now I remember what she picked for her costume.
みーちゃんもかわいいよ。
ああ、もうとんでもない災難だ。この格好はケイちゃんにやらせるつもりだったの。
前原さん、この格好も並々ならぬものがあります。しかも普段の部活では上昇無敗、完璧鉄壁猛満体の委員長の普段の姿を知れば知るほどに8枚深さ 500% だと思います。しかし天下無敵の委員長ですら逃れることがかなわないとは。
そういうことっすか。
Gay!
二人で同じ器の巨大パフェを。それなのに俺に内緒でそんな素敵な部活をしてたなんて納得いかないっす。こんな部活の存在して俺の人生のリセットボタンはどこ？
Oh, like those noises. The crowd roars in excitement.
こんな夢のような部活は。
みんなダメだよ。部活はひな。
なんとこれは住民票をひなみ沢に移すっきゃな。
Stop there, Rena. Population of Inamizawa might double by tomorrow.
しかし素晴らしい罰ゲームっすよ。女性を美しくする衣装は例えるならデザートのデコレーションと同じなんす。ショートケーキだって全て剥いてしまえば単なるスポンジケーキに、それをクリームで飾り十重旗への美しい装飾が奏でる素晴らしき魅惑のハーモニーはしかるに、このセーラー服とブルマの組み合わせは素晴らしい。本来ならどちらも日常的な学校衣装であり、それはそれで味わいがあるのですが、それはそれで制服と体操服という近いカテゴリーにありながら交わることのなかったこれら衣装、そうデザートに例えるならまさにいちご大福。誰もが絶対に合わないと思った組み合わせが誰もがの未体験の未知なる味わいを持たせるに至ったのです。
ケイちゃんってケイって呼ばれてこの暴走特急と仲良かったんだ。
全力で無関係を装わせてください。
Well, of course it's fucking idiot.
なんだ
A guy tumbled in and landed on his feet elegantly. It was Coach. Oh man, they were joking about this one being goofy as shit, huh? He just fucking appears out of nowhere. Like, you can kind of make excuses for, like, Tomita and Okamura-kun showing up. Like, you can kind of make excuses for that. Kameda being there makes sense. So then Irie just shows up, obviously, because he's gonna lose his shit over whatever the hell Satoko's wearing. Let me guess, she in a maid outfit? Because that's always what Irie wanted.
許しませんよ前原さん
Coach glared at me in anger. Yeah, well, how dare I not tell you what was happening today? Trying to hide Satoko in her cute little maid outfit. He was breathing hard with a scary expression on his face.
Knew it!
あれですよ
At the moment of his scream, 3 different metal buckets fell on his head one after another, and a Chinese wok finished the job.
まあこの格好が罰ゲームになった時点で多少は心の準備がありましたのよ。さとこのメイドさんはある意味命に関わりますです。はうさとこちゃんのメイドさんかわいいよ。お持ち帰り。
それはさせませんお持ち帰るのはこの私入江京介です
ダメだよ。デナのお持ち帰りを邪魔するとハウハウハウハウ。
Once Rena goes into cute mode, she becomes merciless. If a rock tried to sabotage her chance to take her favorites home with her, she'd break it into pieces. If it was a river, she'd fill it up with sand. If it was the sea, she'd split it in half like Moses did and walk through it. What? Coach got up on his feet like a zombie. I couldn't believe he could still get up after getting hit by all her super fast attacks.
無駄ですよ聞きませんほら無駄入江は何度でもよみがえるメイドがそこにいれば何度でもよみがえるそれが人類のグヒブビオ
それでもダメ。レナがお持ち帰り。
お持ち帰り。
ハウ
Irie was down on the floor, his body twitching. Rena just hit him with a barrage at point blank range.
しかし圧巻な光景だな。勝ってよかったと同時に負けてたらその一角に俺がいたかもしれないこと。
全く悔しい。いくら罰ゲームも部活の務めとはいえこんな格好。
チェおじさんの格好に比べたら
Yeah, I was
サ
gonna
トコの
say,
格好なんてまともな
Satoko
方
has
じゃない
like the best costume out of all because it's easily the least revealing of them.
メイドの格好がまともに見える時点でみんなただれてると思いますです。
ほらほらレナ負けた連中にサービスしてもらうのが。
はう今日は誰をお持ち帰ろうかな。はう
そらウェイトレスさん今日のおすすめは
こちらのフルーツパフェはいかがでしょうか。
ただいまシュークリームのセットがお安くなってましたよ。お水ならいくらおかわりしても OK なのです。
I love that. So, waitress, what do you recommend? Ah, the fruit parfait. Maybe the cream puffs. You want some water? Hell yeah, Rika. I could definitely get you more water. Rena's nose was bleeding because she got to keep the waitresses in cute costumes all to herself. I should actually thank her for acting crazy like that because it made me look calmer than I really am. I was as excited as her and my nose would bleed too if I wasn't careful. I now understand what a slack-jawed smile means.
ねえねえリカちゃんウェイトレスさんあーやってあーんですよ。
さとこミオンには肩でも揉んでもらおう。
もう悔しいですわね。ほらあんなさいませ。
チェ肩もみか。おじさんの肩もみは高くつくからね。
The audience gasped at the sight. I bet Angel Mort has never had an event as exciting as this one. Every table had 4 people squeezed in together, but only Rena and myself were at this table, and 3 waitresses in cute costumes were exclusively serving us. They were giving us shoulder massages and feeding us desserts too. This had never happened before at Angel Mort, and it never will again.
この人たちはでは拙者のお部屋を一つお願いしたいでござるよ。
One of the other customers wanted to get a piece of the wonderful treatment and patted Mion on the shoulder.
ああ、悪いけどお部屋はあっちにいる本物のウェイ
ウェイトレスお奉仕はしてもらえ。
別に私たちってあなたたちにサービスする言われなどありませんでしたよ。僕もさとこもみーも
納得できん。
All of a sudden, Kamina-kun screams, starting to blame
納
me.
得できん。
K さんばっかりこんな美味しい部活ができてずるすぎるさ。
いやそれはずるいと言われても。
僕たちもずるいと思います。
Tomita-kun no Kamina-kun was staying behind
大
Kamina-kun.
体前原さんが昨日ので優勝できたのは
前原さんが負けたら
僕たちが委員長背後から
罰ゲームが
やっつけた
怖い
から
ですよと思ってわざと負けてあげたんです。僕たちにもちょっとは感謝してほしいです。
なんだか面白いってどうするけ。
どうするもんな。俺にどうしろと。
よしよし、亀田君にそこまで言うなら今日の勝者の権利をかけて
みーちゃん、それってどういう意味かな。この
That should be no problem at all. Reina's gonna whoop all their asses.
部活メンバーの他の精鋭たちをこんなメンバーですらない連中なんか束でかかってきても負ける気しないでしょ。
I mean, for Reina, absolutely. Kamina-kun clapped his hands with glee. Tomita-kun no Kamina-kun nodded in agreement. They looked fired up already. Damn it. Having to fight against them here?
そういえば圭一さん、少し外野が混じるとはいえここで優勝もちろんここで
くそー、なんかうまいことやられてる気分だが。レナはどうする。
レナは負けないよ。
Yeah.
だってみんなレナがお持ち帰りするもん。圭一くんはどんな罰ゲーム服かな。みんなお持ち帰り。
She sure is motivated. I could see Kamina-kun was ready to fight for the ticket to paradise at Angel Mort. My two underclassmen were also eager to have a chance to fight against the members of the club for the first time.
その勝負
Yeah, I knew you were gonna get in on it.
も混ぜていただきますよと。
よっしゃ、このメンツで決定しよう。ケイちゃんもレナも依存はない。
チェ、依存も何も。
まあ面白くなった方がいい。
富田さんも岡村さんもやめておくならいい。分かってると思いますけど負けたら大変なことになりますのよ。
それは僕たちもいつかは戦いたかったんです。
They've seen the many horrifying punishments we've had to suffer, and they still have the courage to join in. I had to admit, they have potential. Kamina, the evil lord of Angel Mort, sneered at the two.
まさか K さんと再び戦えるとは思わなかったっすよ。今回は正々堂々
よりによってエンジェルモートである意味野球で戦うより手強い気がするぜ。
Coach Irie, the Count of Maids, laughed like he was afraid of nothing.
ここは大人の本気というものを、そして今日ここに入江京介のためだけのハーレムを実現させるのです。
みんな勝たせてあげ。
よし、俺も覚悟。いつまでもぼやいていて。ミオ、勝負は何でやる。
そう来なくっちゃね。みんな道はウェイトレスの皆さん運んじゃってください。
In the kitchen, the real waitresses are standing by with many desserts on trays. It looks like the game is going to be either a speed eating or a competitive eating contest.
店長、本当にいいんですか？
ああ、いいから運んじゃって。面白いことは何でも大。せっかくのイベントでだしね、盛り上がらないと。
The waitresses checked their manager and started bringing in the desserts. Two of my underclassmen, Kamina-kun, Coach, Rena, and I sat at a table together. The horrific amount of desserts was brought before us. I wanted to enjoy watching the cute waitresses placing desserts on the table. Right now I was in a fighting mood. I had no time for that. The audience surrounding our table seemed to have grown excited too. I bet it didn't even cross their minds that they would see a serious battle at Angel Mort today. But they didn't care, as long as it's fun to watch.
さーて、制限時間内にどれだけのデザートが食べられるかの勝負だよ。
Okay, okay. That definitely levels the playing field a bit. Because if it's purely physical, Rena would have whooped all their asses, alright? We all know this. But an eating contest. I mean, we do know already that Kameda fucking goes ham on fucking desserts. Specifically the Angel Mort desserts, alright? Obviously the underclassmen aren't, I don't think they're gonna hold too much of a threat here. They're definitely gonna try. They're definitely gonna try, but I don't think they're gonna last too long. Coach, I think it's definitely gonna, I'm pretty sure it's gonna come down to Keiichi and Reina again. I feel like the underclassmen are gonna be the first ones to go out, then Coach, then it's gonna be Kameda, Keiichi, and Reina. Somehow Keiichi and Rena are gonna pull out ahead of, you know, the Dessert Lord. It's gonna be down to those two again.
あらかじめ各メニューごとに重さは出してあるからね。
Oh wait, no, it's a
食べ
time
終わ
limit
った後
thing.
に食べた総重量で勝負をつけよう。
Right, it's a time limit thing. It's not necessarily about who's gonna drop out. It's about how much they're gonna be able to stuff down their gullets. I still think it's gonna be in that order, though. It's gonna really come down between Keiichi and Reina. Tomita and Okamura, they're younger kids. They're not gonna be able to pack his way as much. Irie is a grown man. He's gonna be able to pack away more. But Kameda is a fucking dessert fiend, so he's gonna pack away a lot. But I'm guessing Keiichi and Reina are gonna have like some certain strategy where it's like it's not about the amount of dessert, but targeting specific desserts that they know are they're gonna eat like less of them, but it's gonna pack more weight somehow. Like they're gonna have some kind of strategy going on. When the words competitive eating came up, Kameda-kun smiled evilly. Yeah. Damn it. Kameda-kun had the advantage.
委員長、僕たちはコンビですので、二人で。
ああ、いいよ。
Yeah, it's fine.
いつもコンビだからね。特別に許可しよう。
Damn it, having two stomachs for a competitive eating contest was an absolute advantage too. Yeah, okay, well now that you're carrying the both of them as one, like, they definitely hold more of a chance, but they're still not gonna be, I still think they're gonna be one of the, on the lower end.
やっぱり女の子には胃袋勝負はきついんじゃないか。
そんなことないよ。かいいみんなをお持ち帰りできるならテーブルごとだって飲み込んじゃうよ。
I underestimated her, absolutely. Rena can overcome physical impossibilities when she goes into cute mode. She might even be able to eat food that's heavier than herself.
監督は大食いは
前原さん、そこにメイドがいて、それを手に入れるための条件が大食いならば。
There's one thing you don't understand, my Bada-san, is that Unc a real eater for real.
私に不可能の文字はありません。
I could see a black aura surrounding him, which I found very intimidating. The glint from the eyes that shone from behind his lenses was sharp enough to pierce an iron board. Damn it, he was in maid mode, which is equally as strong as Reina's cute mode. Shit, I was the only one without any advantages.
じゃあ準備はレディーゴー。
I wasn't ready emotionally, but Mion started the game without hesitation. Damn it, there was no turning back. I had to do this. There are many kinds of desserts before us. Some were easy to eat and some were not. So I had to get the desserts that's the easiest to eat before anybody got it. What about the yogurt parfait? But of course, everybody seemed to be thinking the same thing. Everybody reached out for the same dessert as fast as they could. White light flashed in front of our eyes and the parfait disappeared. My hands clashed with the others in midair.
みんな遅いよ。レナがお持ち帰り。
Rena took the parfait. She was literally as fast as lightning. Damn it, I knew it. There was no way I could beat Rena in the opening move. Rena took the parfait like a frog catching a fly with its tongue and swallowed it in a single gulp. She did all that in seconds. She's usually gentle and calm, but she's a totally different person right now. Really, it's terrifying. I see. I now understand why people say women always have room for dessert. But, in the special environment of Angel Mort, Kameda-kun wasn't far behind Rena. He grabbed a fruit parfait and swallowed it as if drinking beer from a mug. It looked very dynamic.
無駄ですよ、ケイさん。エンジェルモードでの戦いでまだまだ行くっすよ。
Tomita-kun and Okamura-kun look at the extraordinary techniques Rena and Kameda-kun are displaying. They seem to be very calm. They knew their advantage. As long as they kept a steady pace, they could eat more and eat faster than anybody else because there are two of them. Rena and Kamina-kun were eating very fast, but they might slow down in the middle, so this was going to be an unpredictable race. Son of a bitch, I won't lose this game. I shoved my dessert into my mouth and kept eating. I just kept eating. Ow, ow, ow. Damn it, my mouth got extremely cold when I swallowed a ball of ice cream. How could the others do this so easily? Huh? There's an idea. I should melt it first. I could use some kind of heat to melt it and first drink it down. Plus, it would also be easier for my stomach to take when it's not so cold. But how should I melt it? It would take too long to use body heat, and I don't have any other source of heat with me.
すみません、ウェイトレスさん。ホットコーヒーをできれば器は
監督、
甘いです。熱で溶かすなんてて私だって思いついていました。
No. Damn it. He was one step ahead of me. I could order hot coffee too, but I'd still be one step behind him. I'd have to come up with something to melt my ice cream faster than hot coffee.
クールになれ、前原圭一。
Why is your text
考えるん
pink?
だ。考えろ。
Keiichi-kun held his head, screamed that line, and bent his neck backwards. When he gets like this, he always speaks everything that's on his mind. It's very fun to listen to. But I had to concentrate. I needed to win this game. I was going to keep eating as much as I can, take all the adorable girls home with me. Oh, we're seeing this from Rena's perspective. That's why. Okay. I should have guessed from this line. Because obviously Keiichi wouldn't say something about taking girls home with him. Yeah, she said Keiichi-kun, which is, you know, how she typically refers to him. Okay, interesting. A sudden shift into Rena's perspective. Okay. I was having so much fun. I was so thrilled that I felt like my heart was about to burst. Might have been acting totally uncute. I didn't care exactly because I was having so much fun. Michan always comes up with such extraordinary games. Satoko-chan loves to play pranks. Riki-chan is very sneaky, but it's impossible to hate her. And Keiichi-kun is always so funny. I enjoy every day. Wish I could express how much I really do enjoy them better than by saying how happy I am. Sometimes I even feel anxious because I enjoy every day so much. There is as much misfortune and pain as there is happiness and pleasure in this world. I know very well that they all come to you regardless of how hard you try. You'll have happy days regardless of how hard you try. You'll have unhappy days regardless of how hard you try. But that doesn't mean that you don't need to try hard. I can try to make my happy days even happier and last longer. In the same way, I can try to make my unhappy days happier and end faster. I struggle very hard to achieve that. That's why I'm going to enjoy the happy days I have now as much as I can. I must not take them for granted because they won't last forever. They won't. One day, all of a sudden, these happy days will come to an end. I know it. That's why I was trying to enjoy the happiness I received today so that I wouldn't regret it. Interesting. Interesting. Very interesting point for the story to get like really real all of a sudden. In the heat of all this incredible fucking goofiness, like we're just gonna get real, alright. One day these happy days will come to an end. I feel like that's very clearly foreshadowing something, like that's trying to like give us a hint to something. Because obviously you could look at that and just be like, oh yeah, you know, eventually we all gotta die someday. And that you could just take it at face value like that, but like, what does she know? Even if the world ended tomorrow. I noticed my hands stopped moving while I was thinking about these things. And spending time with my friends, I feel so happy that my heart might burst. I even love doing the punishments. They're fun for me. I have friends. I have a place where I fit in. I have time in which to be myself. I have a me that I love. I love everybody. I love Michan, Satoko-chan, Riki-chan, and Keiichi-kun. I love everybody in my class and everybody in Okonomiya.
おお、レナの手が止まったね。さすがにあのペースじゃ長続きしないかな。
チャンスだよ。今こそ竜宮山を。
無駄エンジェルボートでこの俺に勝とうという時点で
レナさんしっかりして監督を勝たせたら承知しませんですことよ。
私は負けます。飲めと言われれば太平洋だって飲み干して。
どうしたレナ、見てろ、ここからいよいよ圭一様の逆転劇のなあみんな。
レナ、どうしましたですか？
I had left the table.
ちょっと手洗い行ってくるね。
I was just so happy. I didn't care who won or lost this match. Of course, it's more fun when I go crazy to try and win. But I can never be happier than this. If I could seal this happiness in a piece of crystal, I'd carry it around with me in my pocket. I'd use it as heat to ward off the cold of hard days that are certain to come to me. I know they will. You're not truly happy when you feel happiness. When you're bored with happy days and you don't realize that you're happy, that's when you've achieved true happiness. You only truly feel happiness when you're in a freezing cold environment. It's the only time your heart can feel the warmth of even a small happiness. On my way to the bathroom, I saw a waitress and a customer arguing at the register. The customer was a woman. The waitress was trying to explain the lady needed a ticket to get a seat because the restaurant was holding an event today. But the lady, saying she didn't know, was still trying to get a seat. After a while, the store manager was called and started apologizing to the lady.
まったく。
Excuse me, who the fuck are you? Whoa. That's a bright design. Hello. The short, fucking pinkish purple fucking hair going on. The golden fucking tube top. The fucking star marking over the pussy. Come on
チ
now.
ケットないなら入れないって表の見えるところにちゃんと張り紙しといてよ。
And clearly you gotta have some importance. They don't just give sprites out to anyone.
たく客をなんだと思ってんの？
The lady's eyes met mine. I guess who it might be when I heard the voice, I was prepared.
あら、レイナちゃんじゃない？こんなとこで会うなんて
あ、どうもこんにちは。こんなとこで会うなんて本当に奇遇ですよね。
I held out my hand for a high five. She gave me one.
聞いてよレイ、ひどいのよ。今日はチケットがまあ仕方ないわね。ねえ、お店には入
さどうぞこちらからどれでもお選びください。
The store manager gave her a fake smile and led her to their showcase.
私はあの人はショートケーキねえレイナ、あなたはどれがいい？いいのはどれでも好き。
じゃあ私も
あら、他にもこんな
なんだか
そう、じゃあショートケーキを2つとプチトリアノンを1つお持ち帰りでね。
Don't tell me that's her mom. She imitated the smile I usually made. I replied with the same big smile. I smelled the strong scent of her perfume and it made me sneeze.
あら風邪？
Rena-san's perfume and I never seemed to get along. Or maybe like a stepmom situation? Like... Because she's referring to her by name. Where the achievement says meet with someone unpleasant. The woman seemed pleasant. Like she was a bit upset about like not being able to get a seat, but like I don't know, she seemed pleasant enough to me. Rena, height 168 centimeters, 89, 60, 87. Okay, very thin waist. Hobbies? I'm interested in indoor gardening. I want to make tea with the herbs I grow. I always enjoy your funny and interesting stories. We should go out somewhere next time in private. Gentlemen's Club, Blue Mermaid. Private manager, Rena Mamiya. Oh, the... private manager. Okay, okay. She works for a gentleman's club. Right, isn't it Blue Mermaid? That's the one where, Satoko's uncle, his mistress, worked there, right? So is this the same person? Who ends up dead? Like, her name's Rena Mamiya, so as far as we can tell, no actual relation to Rena. But seems to know Rena, right? Like, there's some connection there, because she, like, recognizes her. She's like, oh, it's Rena. But she's a manager at a gentleman's club. Which also happens to be the gentleman's club that Teppei's mistress works at. Huh. Huh. I'm trying to see if I can possibly get anything out of that. I feel like there's definitely got to be something cooking there. I'm very interested to see how Rena would know her. Cause obviously Rena is originally from Hinamizawa, moved to the city, but then moved back to Hinamizawa. But she wasn't in Okonomiya, she was in like one of the bigger cities from what I remember. So I don't know, so I doubt she would have met her during her time outside of Hinamizawa. But when the hell else would Rena have met the manager of a gentleman's club?
少なくとも3日くらいの間は
ケイチくん頑張りすぎだったもんね。
Rena ate a massive amount of desserts too, but her stomach seemed to be just fine.
女の子には胃袋がデザート用に確実に一つは余計にあるに違いない。
まあ、レディーに何たる暴言ですの。そんなこと言うケイチさんにはこうでございますことよ。
Satoko had poked me very hard in my bloated stomach.
やめて、お腹は押さないで、中身がはみ出る。
Satoko and Riki-chan grinned mischievously upon hearing that. A chill ran up my spine. Why are they smiling like that and walking towards me so gleefully?
やめろお前ら、血とか涙とかはねえのかよ。
千載一遇のチャンスを見逃す私と思いまして。みー、ケイチの膨らんだポンポンが大変なのですよ。ケイチくんのポヨンポヨンのポンポン、かいいよ。
やめろ。
Rena joined Satoko and Riki-chan torturing me. We were still making a lot of noise outside the restaurant. I desperately blocked my stomach from their attacks, but someone else hit me from behind. I wonder who. Shocker.
ケイちゃんとその愉
Oh
快な
shit,
仲間の
actual
皆さん、
shocker.
こんにちはです。
At first I'm just like, yeah, of course it was gonna be Mio. And then I'm like, wait, why the fuck is Mio wearing the Angel Mort costume? That's not what she was wearing. No, actual shocker, was not expecting you.
あ、しーちゃんだ。こんにちは。あれれ、今日はお店にいなかったよね。
Yeah, I'm guessing Mion asked her to fucking stay away.
私、今日は夜のシフトなんです。
It's not Tuesday or Thursday. Like, ma'am, we can see you're quite well endowed. If you're gonna work night shift, you've gotta be working Tuesday or Thursday. It's Sunday. Come on now.
さっき来て着替えたばかりですよ。
それはそうと、お前よくその格好で店の外に出られる。
大したことないですよ。あられもない姿で村中を練り歩いた誰かさんよりは恥ずかしくないです。
Damn it. I was just getting over it. She just reminded me that I'll never be able to get married.
それはそうと、今日は皆さんだいぶ大暴れしたらしいですね。
いつもの部活になっちゃった以上ね。
店内とんでもない。お姉も責任を感じたようで、みんなに混じって掃除をやってます。
やっぱり私たちも掃除に加わった方が。
ああ、それはさすがにお客様に掃除はさせられませんから。
そもそも一番散らかしたのはミー本人だと思いますです。
Yeah, that's right. Everybody nodded in agreement.
それでお姉から伝言です。皆さんは先に帰っててくれていいそうです。
いいよ、待ってるねみんな。
Rena asked for our agreement. Of course, we decided to wait without hesitation. Satoko, Rika-chan, and I all nodded
手
along.
伝えないならせめて終わるのを帰っていいからって言って先に帰るとあいつ寂しがると思うからな。
ほう、ケイちゃんも日進月歩。少し
まあね、レナたちがちゃんと教育してるからね。
He grew up all right. He also grew out with his fat stomach.
ですわよ。ニパー。
なんだよ、こういう時だけ女どもは結束しやがって。
I hate girls. They get along so easily just because they're girls. In the end, we ended up making a lot more noise, even dragging Shion into the mess this time.
シオン、あんたいつまでサボってんの？雑巾どこやったの？ありゃいけ。じゃあ私はもう戻りますね。
みーちゃん、お掃除まだまだかかりそう？
何みんなおじさんを待っててくれて。余計な気。まったくもう。
Mion looked happy to see us waiting for her, but she always says the opposite of what she thinks. Wonder when she'll grow up to be able to just honestly say thank you.
バカ、終わるまで待っててやれよ。
レナたちも一緒に。ごめんね。
だからいいって。今日ね、シオンの仕事終わるの待ってから久しぶりだから本当に大丈夫。気持ちだけでも感謝するよ。
あら、なんだか悪いですわね。なんか悪い気がするかな。
人は大勢いるから大丈夫だよ。風が冷たくなる前にみんなひな水。
わかりましたのです。みー、お掃除、ファイト、です。
お、ありがとね。じゃあケイちゃん、お嬢様方のエスコートをよろしく。途中で死角に襲われないようにしっかり護衛するんだよ。
Looking around, I didn't see any ladies who needed an escort. Felt more like I was the one who needed protection. Anyway, we said our goodbyes, making it easier for us to end the day and go home.
じゃあね、みーちゃん、また明日ね。
おう、また明日ね。
よっしゃ、行こうか。
We waved at Mion until she went back inside the restaurant. After that, we all got on our bicycles and left Okinomiya. On the way home, we talked about how exciting it had been today, and it looked like everyone was still fired up. We had the horrifying punishment, the competitive eating contest, which turned into an unprecedented battle involving all the customers in the restaurant, and after that everything got crazy and messy. First the waitresses didn't know what to do, but after a while they ended up joining in. We had a blast.
でしたのよね。その時の富田さんと岡村さんたらもうおかしくてた。結局亀田も入江。
いやいや、俺の演説もなかなか。あの時は店全体が俺の味方だったよな。
圭一は生まれる時代と国が違ったらひょっとするととんでもない人になってたかもなので。こんな口先男がですの？どこの国に生まれてもろくな人間にはならないと思いますでございます。あと100年も早く生まれていたらお札になっていたかもですよ。
Kato, listen, if you don't think an idiot can end up becoming someone of importance, like, you're not paying attention to the world around you.
圭一さんのお札なんてなんだか貧しいですわね。
Listen, if the Americans can put Jackson on a bill, I'm sure the Japanese can do much worse.
きっと200円札とか300円札とかそのぐらいの数でしたよ。
Satsuko and Rika-chan kept up their continuous chatter. I was a bit tired after the day's event, so I just listened quietly. I noticed the wind was getting colder. Our shadows were getting longer as well. Satsuko and Rika-chan still had a lot of energy left. What about Rena? She'd been very quiet. Maybe she also had a stomachache from eating too much. I looked at Rena to see. However, I was wrong. Rena was... I don't really know how to describe it. She looked very satisfied. She looked like she really did have that much fun. She looked like she was as happy as she could ever be. I could tell all that without her saying a word. When I looked at her, it made me realize that the word fun wasn't enough to describe what we did today.
今日一日本当に楽しかったな。
圭一くんは？
俺も最高に今日みたいなことが明日や明後日もあればいいのになってくらいにさ。
それはあれ ナも今日のお店の中での時間だけが永遠だったらいいなって思って。
おお、詩的なことを言うな。
ケイチ君は思わなかった？
Rena didn't notice that I made fun of her. I might have been a little tactless. Suddenly, I regretted having said it.
いや、俺も同感だよ。
でもね、ケイチ君、別に今日だけが最高に幸せってわけじゃないんだよ。
A cool wind blew through her hair. She smiled at me, and for some reason, she looked very mature. Her appearance made my heart skip a beat.
私たちのひなみ沢での日々は、どの一日だってかけがえのない大切で素敵な幸せな一日なんだよ。たとえ部活がお流れになっちゃって退屈な一日だったとしてもね。
レナは大人な考え方ができるんだな。
本当はまだまだはしゃぎ足りない。興奮がまだ冷めないだけなのかもね。
Rena laughed, and that made me laugh too. Satsuko thought we were laughing because we said bad things about her, and she started bugging me about it. Once again, we made a lot of noise like we always do.
では、僕とさとこはここでお別れなのです。リカ、もう少しご一緒してタバコ屋さんで曲がってもいいではありません。豆電球が切れたのを豆電球がないと寝るときに真っ暗になってしまいますですよ。それは困りますわね。あ、牧野さんの雑貨屋さんならここでお別れだね。これ以上行っちゃうとどんどん遠回りになっちゃうからね。
Makino-san's general store. Alright, that's where it is. I wanted to make a stop at the store before going back to the shrine. Turning here would be the quickest way.
そっか。じゃあな、リカちゃんにサトコ。また明日な。
また明日なの。それではですわ、ケイチさんにレナさん。じゃあね、二人バイバイ。
Rika-chan and Satoko waved at us many times, then took the narrow path through the field. Once the noisy girls were gone, it went especially quiet all of a sudden. Even made me feel as if the sun had set in an instant. I could see my house by now, which everybody called the Maibara Mansion. I didn't notice it earlier because of how fired up we all were, but my stomach was about to burst. The growling in my gut felt like thunder. My body must have been paying the price for me acting like an idiot earlier. There was no way I was eating dinner that night. I needed to tell my mom before she started cooking. But before anything, I had to get to the bathroom. Ugh, my stomach was churning. Oh boy, it really didn't sound good. We got to the place where I'd always met Rena in the morning and say goodbye in the evening.
今日はすっげえ楽しかったな。
すっごい楽しかった。あれ、ケイチ君。
すまん。おとなしく休むことにするよ。
ケイチ君もまだまだお腹の鍛え方が足りないかな。
レナだって俺と同じくらい一体その細っこい体のどこにあれが
それは女の子の秘密ってことで。
Rena giggled and tried to avoid giving me an answer. She'd probably hit me if I pressed her about it. If she punched me in the stomach, I'd throw up for sure. So I decided not to go any further.
じゃあな、レナ、また明日な。
また明日ね。
俺さ、前は都会に住んでこんなにも一日一日を楽しいと思って過ごしたこと、俺、ひなみ沢に引っ越してきっと幸せなんだって思う。
レナも同じだよ。ほら、私もこんなに楽しい幸せな日々を送れるのが信じられないもの。
そっか、なら明日も絶対に楽しいな。
そうだよ、昨日も今日も楽しかったんだもん。きっと明日だって楽しいよ。
こんなにも毎日が楽しいと、なんだかある日突然転びそうで怖いよな。
転ぶときはどんなに注意してても転ぶよ。だからいつ転んでもいいように。
そうだな、今を精一杯楽しむのが正解だな。
じゃあね、ケイチくん。おばさまとおじさまにもよろしくね。さて、レナはまだまだ遊び足りないから、また宝の山に
まだ遊び足りないってのか。つくづくタフなやつだな。負けた。
どう？よかったらケイチくんも一緒に来ない？新しい山があってね、まだ全然何かとっても可愛いのが見つかるかも。
悪いけど俺はパス。それになんだか雲が重たくなってきたみたいだ。レナも今日はおとなしく来た。
ほう、こういう素敵な気分の日にはね。だからちょっとでも行ってみるね。
I felt sick enough that I didn't feel like going with her. If I felt better, I would have gone treasure hunting with her for sure. She didn't want to go home yet because she didn't want the fun day to end. It's exactly how I felt too.
分かったよ。じゃあな。かわいいのがあったらぜひ見せてくれよな。
じゃあね。バイバイ。
Keiichi-kun waved over and over as if he didn't want to say goodbye yet. After a while, he was gone. Well, I had to go too because I was going to go treasure hunting. I love cute things. I had such a wonderful day today that I'm sure I'm going to get lucky at treasure hunting. I definitely will find some wonderful treasures. I pedaled my bicycle with determination. My house was nearby, but I took another street that led to the damn construction site. Might have been okay to go home just then, but I hesitated to go since I didn't want to be seen. I had so much fun today. I wanted to continue feeling happy as long as I could. Sorry getting late. I felt like it was getting dark faster than usual. Just like Keiichi-kun said, the clouds in the sky were growing darker. Might start raining
で
hard.
も別にだからって家に帰れるわけじゃないんだし。
Stop it, Rena. You had so much fun today. You have to stay happy as long as you can. Oh no, are you gonna show her that like she has a much worse off home life than we thought? Is that what you're gonna show me? Because I forget, it was definitely one of the earlier chapters. I believe it was the first chapter, but where they kind of like hinted at the fact that Rena had probably dealt with, you know, some form of abuse in the past that would lead to her developing some sort of mental disorder. I think that was in the first chapter, yeah. I'm happy. I enjoy every day. Rena, say it. Say the magical words. Don't be embarrassed. You're not dumb or anything. I might be able to enjoy every day even more if I were dumb. If so, dumb is what I'd want to be.
かわいいのあるかなお持ち帰り。
There, I said it. I'm sure I can find something cute. As long as I believe it's cute, anything can be that way. I should fill my heart with happy memories of today and yesterday. I should look forward to the happiness I'm going to receive tomorrow and the day after tomorrow too. I reached the damn construction site. A mountain of trash loomed before me. I parked my bicycle and walked down the mountain of trash and scrap. This place is my castle. It would be incredible if anyone else came to this mountain of trash. I've come here many times and I usually stay for a long while, but I've never seen anybody walk by. This place is the village's blind spot. I heard that many people come here all the time during the dam wars, but it was abandoned after that. The villagers no longer needed to come here, and some people even forgot about it entirely. Seems like they dump trash here at midnight, but I've never seen a truck actually dumping trash at least. If they dump new trash more often, give me more time to kill. But it looks like it's not going to happen for a while. I walked down the slope with the trash pile, all the way down to the bottom and headed toward another pile. Nobody ever comes here. I've come here many times, and I usually stay for a long while, but nobody has ever come to mess up this place. Not even the other kids from my school come here. They all believe that the arm of the manager of the construction site is buried somewhere in the trash piles. They also believe that the whole place is haunted. They told me that a ghost with one arm still wanders around here, looking for his missing limb. Sadly, I haven't seen the ghost either. I'm not scared. In fact, I'd rather like to meet him. I wouldn't mind helping him find his arm. If he's feeling lonely, I'd want him to be my conversation partner. There's a station wagon buried in the trash pile. It doesn't have tires, but other than that, it still looks like a station wagon. This station wagon is my secret hideout. Fortunately, the sliding door and rear doors don't open, so whenever I want to get in, I have to enter the car from the passenger seat and crawl into the back from there. Of course, I take off my shoes at the passenger seat. When you look at it from the outside, it's just a dirty, abandoned car. But on the inside, it's nice and clean because I had swept it out and decorated a little. That took me a long time. The back seats are lying flat because I wanted to have as much space as possible. I found a mattress in the trash pile and put it into that space instead. It was a bit dirty, so I brought a bed sheet from home and covered the mattress with it. I put my favorite cushions on top, and with that, it turned into a perfect bed. I've put cushions and stuffed animals everywhere. That's not all. Look at this. I have a bunch of sweets here too. I have a bag of fruit candy in 4 different colors, and some cookies, but they're going bad. I'll have to throw them away. My bear-shaped water bottle was empty. When I come here to spend some time on Sundays, I usually bring this water bottle with some sweetened tea in it. I have a box of tissues, a flashlight, extra batteries, and other daily necessities in here. I also have a few books to read in order to kill some time while I'm at it. And I have this. What do you think this is? Look, ta-da! My hideout is suddenly lit up thanks to the table lamp. There's an electric outlet on the side of the old nearby construction office. I thought they'd have cut the power years ago, but to my surprise, I was wrong. Electricity is still being supplied to the outlet. When I found tons of extension cords, I came up with the idea to connect them all and make electricity come all the way to my hideout. Now I can spend some time here comfortably with some sweets, books, and lights. If I wanted to, I might be able to spend a night here. But I may catch a cold since it gets very cold at night. See? This is a very nice hideout, isn't it? At first I thought somebody would find it and mess with it. But that hasn't happened so far. That's because nobody comes here. Everybody forgot about this place. That's how this place became my perfect secret hideout. Fortunately, I ate so much today that I'm still full. I can tell them that I was playing with my friend at her house and ate dinner there. I'm going to stay here for a while and relax. I'm going to treat myself. I loved the water gun battle yesterday. My heart had been pounding when I fought one-on-one with Keiichi-kun. I also had a great fun at Angel Mort today. Never experienced such a crazy game with so many people in my life. I was still feeling the after effects. I was sure I'd have a dream about it tonight. That was why I wanted to bask in these happy feelings. That was why I'm going to treat myself in here. I should take off my shoes and stretch my toes. I should cherish the time when I can be myself. Once I took off my shoes, I felt so relaxed that I didn't want to put them on again. I played all day today and was very tired. The treasure hunt could wait. As it got darker, the light of the table lamp became encouraging. It really was getting dark faster than usual. All of a sudden, I heard the sound of raindrops hitting the roof of the car. Pitter-patter. The interval between drops got shorter and shorter. When it became a continuous sound, I began to hear thunder. Even though it was raining heavily, it remained very quiet inside the car, making me feel like I was in a different world. It's my castle, after all. I felt a bit cold, so I unfolded my big blanket and hid under it. I'm here alone, under the warm blanket that has my scent. Even though nobody knew where I was at the moment, it felt like I was left alone in the heavy rain. I still felt secure and free from anxiety for some reason. I felt like this heavy rain was keeping my enemies away from my castle. I liked it that way. This place is full of small happiness. It's full of my favorite things. That's why I'm happy whenever I'm here. When I put another blanket over me, I felt as warm as if I were in bed. I listened to the soothing sounds of raindrops hitting the scrap iron in the trash heaps, and it made me feel sleepy. This is a castle of trash. This trash came here because nobody wanted it. This is where it lives. This is a country where unwanted refuse lives together. I felt like I fit in here, but at the same time, I knew it was just a temporary place for me, as there's somewhere I had to go back to. No, I shouldn't think about things like that. Whenever I realize that I don't belong here, I remember I'm in the middle of a very dirty pile of trash. I should just doze for a little bit longer. Thinking is poisonous. I wanted to keep myself out of that poison, so that the kind Rena within me could stay pure. A little bit longer. Just a little bit longer. And I closed my eyes. Interesting. Interesting. So it very much seems like Rena's trying to avoid going home. As if there's something there. My mother was a very busy woman. The harder she worked, the more her work was valued. She kept getting promoted. She sought to go higher and higher. She was always shining. She was my hero. My mother started her career as a fashion designer at a small clothing factory in Okonomiya. My father was a designer too. They met through their jobs and soon got married. They lived in a small apartment in Okonomiya, but they moved to my grandma's house, our current house, in Hinamizawa when she got pregnant with me. We lived there until right before I went to elementary school. Now that I think about it, that was the happiest time of my life. I felt happy every day and believed without a doubt that tomorrow would be the same. I was so happy that I took it for granted and didn't even feel the happiness. I really did feel happy every day. I was small at the time, didn't really understand what was going on, but it seemed like the company my parents were working for was having financial difficulties. So my mother and a few other young designers started talking about leaving the company and going independent. After many things happened and the situation grew complicated, they got an offer to work at a big design firm in Ibaraki and they took the offer. At that time, I heard my mother saying many difficult words like limited partnership and business alliance, but in short, what she wanted to do was move to Ibaraki. My mother and her peers were hired because their talent and experience made them immediate assets to their new company. However, my father wasn't one of them. Unfortunately, my father wasn't as talented as my mother was, so moving to Ibaraki meant my father had to give up being a fashion designer. My mother's new company had high expectations of her talent and promised her a responsible project. She didn't want to waste her growing talent and passion by living in a rural town like Hinamizawa. So my mother convinced my father to quit his job, move to Ibaraki to support her and help build her career. Back then, moving meant that I had to say goodbye to my close friends. I didn't want to move, and I kept crying about it. After we moved to Ibaraki, my mother was a big success. Not only did she have great leadership skills, she was full of energy, and I believe she made the best use of her talents to succeed. She came home late every night and barely had any days off. When she had a big project, she often stayed entire nights at her office. When she came home, she always looked fulfilled and wore a happy smile that she had never worn when she was in Hinamizawa. She was shining. I remember I always wanted to shine like her when I grew up. On the other hand, my father wasn't doing so well. He couldn't find a job as a fashion designer, so he took a clerical job at a small company, but he kept changing positions. He couldn't use the experience that he had cultivated, and it was very hard for him. But he was very understanding. He started to take care of things around the house for my mother, who got busier and busier, having one project after another. He cleaned the house, did the laundry, and came to my school events. However, he couldn't cook. He did cook rice, but always bought side dishes from a grocery store. We ate dinner without my mother more and more often. I guess she's busy again. Every time I said that, he always told me, "Your mother's working very hard. So, let's support her, Rena." That was what he always told me. I sided out my father with the cooking. Thought it was a good idea to learn how to cook since he wasn't good at it. Whenever my mother cooked, I helped her and tried to learn how to cook from her. She apologized for not having enough time to cook for us, but she was happy that I was learning. I think I wrote in my school yearbook that I wanted to be a clothing designer in the future, just like my mother. But apparently I lacked my mother's exceptional sense of style. She used to tell me, taste is something that you're born with, not something that you cultivate. I remember I was discouraged to be a designer because of that. That was why I decided to reach her by getting better at things she wasn't good at, instead of trying to be like her. I wanted to be good not only at cooking, but also at doing things around the house such as cleaning, doing the laundry, and grocery shopping. I remember my father was really happy that I did all that for him, because he wasn't good at it at all. I'm starting to worry about what turn this story might take. He couldn't find a job and spent a lot of time at home, so he seemed to enjoy spending time doing the housework with his daughter more than anything. I started to become better and better at filling in for my mother. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. And she started to get busy to do any of the housework at all, and she moved on to a more responsible position at her job. She took me out to many places as if to compensate for leaving me alone all the time. She used to say, "Let's go eat something delicious," without telling your father, and took me out to a restaurant. She took me to a high-class restaurant and amusement parks. Sometimes it was only me and my mother. Sometimes it was with her friends from work. She took me to a beach barbecue one summer with those friends. I was introduced as her daughter, and every one of them pampered me. I still remember there was this one guy who particularly doted on me. He was a good-looking young man. I called him Uncle once, and he got mad at me. He was nicely tanned with dyed brown hair. This young man often came with us when we went out. When my mother took me somewhere, she usually made several phone calls for her work during the day. Sometimes she took me out to a place where she could also do her work at the same time. So it didn't feel awkward when people from her work came with us. But I always preferred to be alone with her, so I was happier when we could do that. One day she took me to a very high-end part of town. Of course, she always spoiled me whenever we went out. She bought me things and let me eat whatever I wanted. But she especially spoiled me on that day. She took me to many expensive-looking boutiques and accessory stores. She was about to buy me something, but I told her not to get it because because it didn't look good on me. Without hesitation, she bought it anyway. I remember there were many zeros on the price tag. On that day, I realized my mother's design work had made her a very successful woman, and she was earning a lot of money. We took a break at a ridiculously expensive-looking restaurant that probably charged 1,000 yen for a glass of orange juice. My mother clapped her hands and spoke to me with a smile on her face. She asked, "Reina, would you like to make your dream come true?" When I was in kindergarten, my teacher gave students a topic to draw a picture of. The topic was my dream, and I drew myself eating a mountain of fruit parfait all by myself. What my mother meant to say was that she was going to make that dream come true for me. It was a normal day. It wasn't my birthday or anything. But since my mother always spoiled me when we went out together, I didn't feel awkward about it at all, and I accepted her offer with a happy smile. Oh, God. There were five or six of fruit parfaits in front of me. I remember it looked exactly like the world I drew. I felt I was floating in that dream world. It was too much for us to finish, but we dug our spoons into it as if we were playing in the mud, and we really enjoyed eating together. It was my first time to experience getting full by eating only fruit parfaits, I remember I was very happy. I enjoyed tasting the happiness and chatting with my mother.
レイナちゃん、この間映画とお食事に行った時、一緒だった人のことを覚えてる？
Uh-huh. I was kind of getting that suspicion.
秋人お兄さん。
レイナちゃんは秋人さんの
嫌い。いつもレイナ。
それは大好きだ。バーベキューの時は
たまには仲良しかな。
My mother laughed. I didn't know why she brought up the subject, but I didn't really pay attention to it because I was too young. Yeah. Now that I think about it, she was breaking the news. I just didn't notice it.
ねえ、レイナちゃんはお母さんとお父さんとどっちが好き？
お母さん。
It wasn't that I hated my father or anything, but I thought giving her that answer was appropriate after she spoiled me so much.
もしもお母さんとお父さんが別々のお家にお母さんね、お父さんと別れて秋人おじさんと結婚しようと思うの。
At that time, my mother was a very successful woman. I didn't know this at the time, but she was drafted by a headhunter to work at a bigger company, where she was promoted to a higher and more responsible position, one where she could bring out the most of her talent. Of course, the position wasn't the only thing she gained. Compared to my father's low salary, my mother was earning enough money to support a family of 3 and still have some left over. I kind of realized it from the way she spent money. The greater a position she achieved, the more she spent time with people at her level. All of them were bright and talented. Compared to them, my father might have looked unattractive to her. I liked Uncle Akito, but I liked him as one of my mother's friends, not in the same way I liked my father. I liked my father and mother equally, so it was very shocking to me that my mother wanted to divorce him. It felt as if the ground below me was beginning to crack. The expression, I realized, actually fit my situation very well. I had to choose which side of the cracked ground I wanted to stand on. My mother told me to live with her at her new house. Her new house meant the house Uncle Akihito lived in. That a house was a sanctuary for a family. I believed that a house was a holy place where strangers couldn't easily enter. That was why I couldn't believe her. How could she let a stranger invade such a holy place so easily? Why do you hate my father? My mother looked down and didn't answer. I asked her another question. Why can't you stay with my father? I think that was the hardest and most heartbreaking of all questions for my mother to answer. In short, my mother had cheated on him, yeah. She loved another man who was more attractive than my father. It was just that, nothing more. I knew more than anybody that it wasn't my father's fault. First of all, he decided to move from Hinamizawa to support my mother as much as he could. For him, nothing good had come from that. Yeah, no, like, honestly, I was kind of getting worried that, like, I don't think he's quite out of the woods yet. I was kind of getting worried that, like, with the mother being away so much that the father might turn into a bit of a creep, unfortunately, but, it really seems like he's kind of just uprooted his life and does as much as he could for his wife, and his wife just absolutely fucked him over. And there's still a chance the father could take a turn for the worse in ways I don't want him to, but so far in this situation, it seems like homie just got fucked over heavy. Actually, I think he had a very tough time since we moved to Ibaraki, but he volunteered to be her support and tried very hard to do that. I thought my mother appreciated his support. That sounds like your mom sucks. So, like, no wonder when Keiichi says, like, I bet you look exactly like your mother. I bet she's just like you. She's like, no, I'm nothing like my mother. So, I took her decision as a betrayal. I told her that I disagreed with everything, including their divorce. I said it very loudly and made everybody in the store jump. Sure, continue your relationship with Uncle Akito, but don't divorce my father. I feel bad for him. I feel terrible for him. He's been doing nothing but support you patiently this whole time. How could you do such a cruel thing to him? I screamed as loud as I could. Then my mother answered, It's too late. Why? You haven't talked to my father about this, have you? It's not too late.
お母さんね、妊娠してるの。
Holy fuck. Wow. Wow, okay. So, Rena has a half sibling out there somewhere. They'd be significantly younger, though, because they moved right before Rena started elementary school. Right, that's what they told us, which would put her around like 5 or 6 years old. So, and I imagine this takes this has been like several months, if not years, in the process. Well, I mean, it would definitely be years before she moved back to Inamizawa, right? Because she just moved back a year before Keiichi did, and we know she's some kind of teenager at that point. So even at the youngest, she'd be like 13. Though I do believe, though I'm pretty sure she is older. But then again, we don't know if they move back right away. But if I had to guess, I mean, she's at least a solid 6, maybe 7 years older than this half sibling, at least. So at the very least, I'd say there's about another 6, 7 years for them. I'm just wondering, like, if this half sibling would potentially have any impact on the story in the present day. But I feel like at this point they'd be so young, they wouldn't really. I don't know whether my mother actually told him about the divorce in person. A middle-aged woman who called herself a lawyer came to the house several times to talk to my father on my mother's behalf. She sometimes called him, too. My father begged the lawyer to let him speak directly to my mother many times, but it never happened. I could tell by the way they talked that he had no clue when my mother told him she wanted a divorce. Well, again, not even sure if she told him in person. The lawyer had told him not to meet my mother, not to call her at work, and many other things, too. To top it all off, she told him not to see my mother ever again. He wanted to talk to her. He called some of their mutual friends, but he only found out the name of the guy she was having an affair with and nothing more. He asked me, "Do you know the guy?" I told him I do. I also told him that he was a funny guy and had given me candy many times. I'll never forget how he looked when I told him that. He hit me for the first time. God damn it. Yeah, that's kind of what I was worried about. And see, that's what I was thinking, because she talks about, like, you know, how, like, the Oyashiro-sama, like, haunted her after leaving Hinamizawa. And I figure that's kind of, like, how it was going to show itself, is, like, in the actions of the father, right? And especially it makes a lot more sense now, like, feels she moves away and all of a sudden her family, crumbles, her mom cheats on her father starts becoming abusive, like, yeah. Hit me so hard that his handprint stayed on my cheek for a while. Then he fell on the floor and cried loudly. Then I started to cry too. I didn't cry because he hit me. Uncle Akihito was kind to me, so I liked him and talked to him out of courtesy. No, that wasn't it. Girls had to be kind to everybody. That's what I thought. But I was wrong. I learned in this world that there are people you should be nice to and enemies you shouldn't be nice to. The enemies are the ones who would destroy my life with their very existence. Whether they mean to harm me or not doesn't matter. They're like weeds growing in a flower bed. Dandelions are innocent, but they take all the nutrition for the tulips from the soil. That's why we have to pull them out. The dandelions did nothing wrong, but they're the enemy. Enemies are bad people. That guy was a bad person, Shouldn't have accepted him. I should have rejected him with everything I had. By doing so, I might have been able to disrupt the relationship. By doing so, I might have been able to make my mother feel like the relationship was not going to work. I mean, take it from someone who's had to deal with some similar shit in the past? No. No. Believe I've dealt with similar situations where it's like, not quite this specific situation, because me personally, my parents were separated before I even turned a year old, so I have, like, no memories of them together, but, like, I've seen my parents get with people who were not good people, and I tried very hard to make it clear to them that they were not good people, but essentially turned into, like, you're just a kid, you're just a teenager, what the hell do you know? Guess what? Those relationships never fucking lasted, because, oh my god, was I right? Holy shit, who would have guessed? But I could pretty much say, yeah, in that situation, it wouldn't have helped. If I tried to do so, my parents would have had to break up. I wish that were true, kid. My father and I cried together, but we cried for different reasons. He must have cried because it happened so fast and didn't make any sense to him. Makes sense. I cried because I regretted that I let it happen when I had the chance to prevent it. My father stroked my cheek and opened his mouth to apologize, but he couldn't speak and just cried with me. One day, the lawyer let me see my mother. My mother asked me to live with her at her house again. I didn't know what to say, so I just kept looking down and listened to her apologies. My father knew that I was going to see my mother on that day, so he handed me a letter and told me to give it to her. I don't know what he wrote in that letter, but for some reason I was able to imagine what kind of things he wrote when I felt it through the envelope. After all, the letter inside the envelope had a rough surface. He must have been crying while writing the letter, and his tears made the letter all wrinkled when it dried. My mother took the letter from me, told me that she'd read it later, and was about to put it in her bag. I stopped her and told her to read it there. See, okay, smart girl, you clocked that shit. She would have just taken it home and like fucking tossed it. She was like, no, I want to make sure you fucking read it. I wanted to see how she was going to take the last words my father had left to her. But my mother didn't read it. She told me she wanted to read it alone later, and she put it in her bag. At that time, I realized. No, it was more than that. I should say, I knew, because it was so obvious. I knew that my mother was lying. She had no intention of reading my father's letter. She was going to throw it away after I was gone, but she lied just because she wanted to seem like a nice person in front of me. I've definitely dealt with a parent like that too. The slight curl in her eyebrows and lips told me that more clearly than anything else. At that moment, I finally knew something else. The guy she was having an affair with wasn't the only bad person. My mother was also a bad person. Since that moment, the existence of my mother disappeared from my world like dry ice evaporating. I didn't have to hesitate about whom to live with anymore. Smart girl.
あなたの家には私の家はもうあなたとも会いた二度と呼ばないでください。
でもねレイナ、お父さんの方に残ったらこれからの生活。
Oh, I see. That's why she doesn't like being called by her actual name.
私の気安くレイナって呼ば失礼します。さようなら。
Those words were my last words to my mother. No, to the woman who used to be my mother. After that, I spent my days without feeling anything. I didn't know if the days were long or short. I didn't know which season I was living in. It was supposed to be nothing out of the ordinary, not having my mother around. But every time my father saw things that reminded him of her, like her toothbrush, her teacup, or her favorite books, he shed tears, which left me frustrated. That's why I decided to completely remove her belongings from the house. I roughly threw her things into a black trash bag. Started to do so frantically. By the time I knocked down her wardrobe, threw her music box hard on the floor, and broke her mirror, my mind was already not working properly. When I try to remember what happened after that, I feel disoriented. That's because the pills the doctor gave me back then made me feel disoriented and lethargic every time I took them. It seems that dullness hit me especially hard, since every time I try to remember that time, it makes me feel disoriented and lethargic, just like the pills made me feel. I destroyed everything that smelled like my mother, but the thing I wanted to destroy the most might have been myself. Even after I threw all of her belongings away, I still couldn't stop feeling regret. I decided to blame myself in the end. Oh, sweetie, no. Maybe I was thinking that I wanted to do damage to her reputation and successful life by destroying her daughter, destroying myself. When I was about to reach that very last resolution, Oyashiro-sama came to me. Oyashiro-sama told me to go back to Hinamizawa. Yes, all of this was because of his curse. Oyashiro-sama brought a curse upon the Ryugu family because we broke his rule and abandoned Hinamizawa. After I figured that out, everything started to make sense to me. All the crazy things that happened after my mother was gone. The curse of Oyashiro-sama did all that to us. It was Oyashiro-sama's voice that was telling us to come back to Hinamizawa. That's right. We should have stayed in Hinamizawa. Everything went crazy because we moved. We had to go back to Hinamizawa. I started feeling disoriented again, and a dull pain ran through my head. It might be a scream from within telling me not to push myself too hard to remember any further. The house where we used to live in Hinamizawa was still there. My grandma already passed away, and the house was the only property she left for us. I remember that I used to live in Hinamizawa, but all I remembered was that it was a village that I used to live in until right before I went to elementary school. I remembered the atmosphere of the village too, but that was all I remembered. I forgot the streets and even the names of close friends I used to play with. The neighbors knew that the son of the deceased woman had come back divorced, but they didn't know us and we didn't know them. So it was almost like we moved to a new place. However, as far as I was concerned, it was still my hometown that I had come back to. At first, everything was inconvenient compared to life in Ibaraki, and it was hard for both of us to adjust. But we renovated the old house, and it was only me and my father. Life here seemed to make my father forget his pain from the divorce. Michan was very kind to me, and I started to get used to my new life too. We did everything around the house, and we gradually went back to a time when we used to live happily. Anybody can live a happy life. People sometimes say that some people are born to be unhappy, but I believe that's just an excuse for people who don't even want to try. I won't give in to fate. I'll never give up trying to recapture the happy times that I lost. I'm going to become happy, to the point where I don't even feel the happiness anymore. I'm not going to cry anymore. I'll never cry again. I used up all of my tears on that night my father hit me. The curse of Yashiro-sama is over because we came back to Hinamizawa. So I'm going to have a happy life from now on. All of a sudden, big raindrops hit the roof of the car and I recovered my senses. It was still raining hard. It had already gotten dark outside. The shadows the table lamp created were very dark. It looked as if there's nothing else around me. If I turned off this light, would everything in this world disappear? I turned off the light. Darkness swallowed me. But the cold air and the sound of rain didn't change a bit. That made me realize I was still in this world. Curse of Yashiro-sama. Did the curse of Yashiro-sama do those crazy things to my family? Or did I convince myself it did as an excuse for myself because I didn't want to feel guilty about the divorce? Sometimes I'm not sure. Since that time, Yashiro-sama hasn't come to me. Sometimes I feel like it was a delusion I created because I was mentally ill. But he did come at that time. I'm sure about that. Am I right, Oyashiro-sama? I was unhappy after I left Hinamizawa, but I came back and I'm happy now. But where am I supposed to go now that I'm unhappy in Hinamizawa? Where?
ダメだ。不幸になったとか考え、私は幸せになるんだから。絶対に幸せになれるんだ。
Suddenly I felt that if this darkness swallowed me, I'd never be able to be happy again. Found the switch of the table lamp and turned it back on. When I looked at the clock, it was already past 11 p.m. I had to go home. I wouldn't have time to prepare my lunch for tomorrow. At least I'd have to set the timer on the rice cooker. It didn't look like the rain was going to stop anytime soon. I looked out the window to see the rain, but I could only see my reflection. I talked to that reflection in the window. I'm so glad that my father's happy. He'd been acting like he was dead for a long time. The smile on his face is a good sign that he's regaining his former happy life. He became miserable. Because of me. That's why I don't mind doing things for him until he regains his smile and we become truly happy. When I stay here alone for a while, it gives him some time to be alone with her. Plus, I don't have to fake a smile. But then, my reflection in the window tells me, Rena, you're such a good girl. You're kind to everybody and love them equally. You can make anybody like you. But did you forget something? In this world, there are people you should be kind to. And enemies that you have to reject with all you've got. I thought you learned that lesson. No, don't listen to her. My reflection is always mean. She always says mean things and makes fun of my worries. But she always tells me things I can't say myself. Let's go home, Rena. To your home. Forget about the mean Rena in the mirror. I was a bit hungry by then. After all the desserts I ate, I still got hungry. I almost forgot. Rena-san bought me a shortcake. Never had a shortcake from Angel Mort, but I bet it'll taste good. I have to give my thanks to Rena-san the next time I see her. Rena-san speaks in a way that makes it very clear how she grew up. I'm sure she's a good person. That's because she's so good to my father. Okay. So it is your dad's girlfriend. Got it. I did everything I could to make my father smile, but I failed. On the other hand, Rena-san can put a big smile on his face so easily. I have to thank Rena-san. I have to thank her for cheering up my father. But I don't know why. I just don't like her perfume. Or, might not even be a girlfriend. She might just be a lady of the night that your father calls on from time to time. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So yeah, she might just be, yeah. She might just be an escort for the father. And I could see that leading to some unfortunate situations. I guess if anything, it could definitely uh provide more of a backstory to chapter 3. I could see that because, like, we know that a worker from that gentleman's club ends up dead, right? So if the girl that Reina's father is seeing also happens to be Tepe's mistress, right? Right, she's sleeping with both of them, and somehow Reina catches wind of that, and she sees another person making her father unhappy, right? Doing the same shit that her mother pulled, right? She's not really gonna consider, you know, what Rena's profession is, quote unquote profession, and what she does for a living, and why she would be sleeping around like that. She's just gonna see that, oh, this person who makes my father happy is also seeing another man, right? And that a woman from that gentleman's club ends up dead in a ditch somewhere. I could def I could definitely see it leading to that point, and Reina just fucking snaps. Mm. Summer vacation picture diary. Today I went to a swimming pool with my mom. Uncle Akito came with us too. I don't like him because he's sometimes mean to me, but he's a very kind, funny old man. Told me to call him Daddy for that day, but he was going to play with me at the pool like he was my daddy. My mom called him Daddy, so I did too. Uncle Akito looked very happy and gave me a lot of money. My mom looked very happy and it made me happy too. I want to play with him again. I hope my dad can come with us next time. Oh, sweetie. I opened the window, placed my cushion nearby, and prepared to enjoy the weather. But she came over and disrupted my peaceful evening. She always ruins my time of solitude.
幸せそうね。そっか。今日はあんたの大好きな甘いものがたくさん食べられたものね。
This girl loves sweets more than anything. I like them too, but I can't eat like she does. Give me heartburn if I eat the amount she ate today. She seemed to be very happy, so I'll leave her alone for a while. I've been making my favorite hot and salty food for the past few days, so she must be quite pleased today. It was a very fun day for me too. I just wanted to enjoy the memory of the excitement I felt today by sitting here quietly and enjoying the sunset. When I looked up at the sky, I saw some thick clouds forming there. The wind was a bit cooler than usual. Might start raining soon.
大地震や大津波などの知らせとして浅瀬に普段は絶対に見かけることができない深海の魚が現れることがあるっていう話があるらしいわね。
We saw a very rare fish that dwells in deep water in the shallows today. Just as the ancient stories of sea monsters say, people hate deep sea animals and tend to interpret them as omens of disaster. It didn't matter if they showed up alive or dead. Ah, it said something interesting just now. Even if they showed up alive or dead, it was an omen of a disaster. Oh, it might start raining soon.
うるさいな。言われなくても分かってる。洗濯物を取り入れるわよ。
I grabbed a basket, went outside to take the laundry in. The clouds were getting darker. I normally like rain, but I didn't think I'd enjoy it today. Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So at first it seemed like that would be from Reina's point of view, but then Rika starts speaking. And some serious Rika voice. So clearly the inner monologue was Rika's, but then who would be the person? Because it wouldn't be Satoko. Because Satoko doesn't come over to visit, right? Isn't that what it was talking about? Or maybe it was. Does Rika actually have some inherent disdain for Satoko? Create some drama?
お、来た来た。
All right. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap it up here for today, though I am definitely very interested in this story. It seems like we're going to get a lot more backstory on Rena, which, I mean, already we've gotten a lot more backstory on Rena, but that's a character I'm definitely excited to learn more about. Like, we got more backstory on Shion, and it was definitely very interesting. Like, the story behind the twins is very interesting, but like, I love Rena as a character, and I'm very excited to see like all the pieces come together to see like what like really makes her tick, and see like already we've seen a lot in her past that kind of explains a good bit, but I'm very excited to see more. And it looks like, you know, we saw that we just saw that scene with Rika, so it seems we'll also see something with Rika as well, which always excited to learn. Rena and Rika are very much at the top of my list. Like, my top 3 are Satoko, Rena, and Rika, right? So anytime I see more of them, I'm always excited for that. So I have a pretty good feeling I'm going to like this chapter and where it goes. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to wrap this one up here for today. So thank you to everyone watching. It's all much appreciated, and hopefully I'll see y'all in the next one. Till then, peace.